Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Virginia Jumpstart Coalition 2020 Summit. I am Stephen Day, and I'm along here with Cherry Dale. We're the co-chairs of the Virginia Jumpstart Coalition. And on behalf of the board and all the members, thank you for being here. It's been a difficult and different year, but we're so excited to be here with you today. And we know that we have amazing information from the panelists to share with you. A couple short housekeeping bits. Please make sure that your name in the participant list is your name that we can recognize and is similar to what you registered with. That way we can tell who's here, and we can also make sure that we pick you for the prizes because we have a bunch of nice prizes today. And Cherry is going to tell you about them. Cherry, go ahead.
Good afternoon. It's great to see you all, or I guess you all can see me. We'd like to welcome you to the 2020 Virginia Jumpstart Summit. It's been quite the year, as Stephen said, so we're thankful that you can join us via Zoom, and we have lots of great presenters today. Today we'll be giving away shredders throughout the day. We're going to start here in just a minute. We're going to announce 13 winners. And the way that this will work, during the breaks, as we come back, we'll be picking around 13 to 14 people each time. And if we announce your name, if you look in your agenda that was sent to you, you need to email Tia, and she will make sure that your shredder is shipped to you. We're going to do that via Amazon. So in your subject line, you will need to put winner, and then Tia will know that you are one of the winners of the shredder. Here is Tia's email address. So again, if your name is called today for a shredder, please email Tia that you are a winner, and you will need to put your full name and address of where you want the shredder shipped to in order for us to get it to the right person. So we're excited about being able to provide many of our participants with that door prize. We are also excited to announce that we are doing teacher grants. And so if you are an attendee today, that makes you qualified as one, that checks one of the boxes as far as qualifying for a grant. And at the very last session today, I will have all of the information about how to apply for the transition grant at the end of the day. So we hope you'll join us and get that information at the very end of the day. So again, thank you guys for joining us. I'm so excited you're here. It's been fun putting this together virtually for you, and I hope you'll get a lot of useful information throughout the day.
So for those of you who know, or for those of you who are new here, the Jumpstart Coalition is just that, a coalition. It's a group of interested individuals and institutions that are passionate about personal financial literacy and personal financial education. I am the director of the VCU Center for Economic Education. I represent the Virginia Council for Economic Education here. And Cherry as Vice President of Financial Education at the Virginia Credit Union. And if you look up and down the agenda today, you'll see that our presenters and everybody involved, including you, are from all sorts of different organizations, schools, and institutions that are here to further this really important mission. So we thank you all for being involved. Thank you for being a member. Thank you for being here. And we thank you, and thanks at the beginning of the day, especially to our sponsors, to Wells Fargo, Virginia Credit Union, Virginia Society of CPAs, Virginia Credit Union League, and Next Gen Personal Finance. So again, thank you for everyone for being here and for our sponsors. So without further ado, we'll go on to our very first presentation. This is Janelli Espinal, who's the Director of Educational Outreach at Next Gen Personal Finance. And actually Monica and Cherry, if you would go ahead and make her a presenter so that she can go ahead and present. And a note to everybody who is a presenter on the call as well, you will be an attendee until we make you a panelist, which we'll do right about the time that it's your turn to present. So as soon as we have Janelli up here, then she will proceed.
Stephen, it's Monica. I'm not seeing her on our list just yet.
I don't see her either. I think that this was a thing that we might have expected, is that we're going to be ahead of schedule a little bit. So if we don't have Janelli here right now, then we can jump ahead to our next presentation. And if Janelli arrives, then she can flip-flop with Leslie Jones. Leslie, I saw you here earlier, and so I know that you maybe weren't entirely prepared to go right at 110, but if it's okay with you, we will jump you up right now.
I'm here.
Hi, Leslie. Thanks so much. Leslie is a youth financial education analyst with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And Leslie, when you're ready, you can go ahead and share your screen and take it away.
I am looking for that option and I'm not seeing it yet.
Monica, we can make her a co-host so she can do that.
Yep, and Leslie, it should be down at the bottom of your screen.
I see chat and Q&A. I see chat and Q&A, but that's all.
Okay, hold on just a second.
Sure. Meanwhile, my first question for
Okay, and Leslie, I've just made you a panelist, so you should be able to share your screen now.
Hi. All right, so my first question for everybody is, have you ever visited the CFPB website before? If you could make note of that in the chat, I would appreciate it. Got my video going, so that's good. All right, so Monica, what am I being told? Yes, no, maybe? Have they visited the CFPB website before?
You've got an absolutely, and then you've got a good mix of yeses and nos.
Wonderful, thank you.
More yeses coming in, yep.
Okay, good. I appreciate that. That's good to know. All right, so I am still a certified business teacher in Virginia. I taught in Manassas City Schools for 12 years. I taught in marketing for 2 years in Ohio previously, but Virginia is my love, and I have a husband that still teaches in Virginia schools, and my children were graduates of Virginia schools, so I'm always happy to do this presentation each year. I have to give this disclaimer that this is wasn't recorded for your listening enjoyment, but instead is being given to you live, and so even though approved, it is not completely scripted, and I need to make sure that I let you know that as I get started here. All right, some background on the Bureau. We were created because of the housing collapse back in 2008, 2009, after the Dodd-Frank Act was created, and we are 9 years old now. And this is our mission and vision. And I just like to focus in on the part of the mission and vision that reflects what my branch of the CFPB does. And that is to educate and empower consumers. It's this magic phrase that's right in here. And what that means is that let me go back. What that means is that I can give you some examples. In this time of COVID, and the CARES Act. The CARES Act came out. It was a law with a lot of parts to it. And we made sure that we provided clear information on what mortgage forbearance actually meant for consumers, on what that student loan deferment actually meant and what we were entitled to. And if you haven't heard, you're able to have your student loan forbearance through, I believe it's December of this calendar year. So if people are panicking and worrying, at least they still have a couple more months of forbearance before they have to start worrying about repayment. And one of my favorite things that came out of the CARES Act, and the fact that we can see our credit reports each and every single month until April 2021. And if you're looking out for identity theft and fraud, being able to check your credit report every week gives you the chance to stay on top of anything that might be happening. So those were just some of the things that happened, and we've made sure that we've communicated about it clearly with our coronavirus page. And if other legislation comes out, we will be sure to update our information and make sure that it's clear, easy to understand, and available for everybody. Now, one of the other things that the Bureau did when it was stood up was ask themselves the question, what is financial well-being? The branch that I work in, consumer education, said, okay, well, how do we get adults to be adults with financial well-being? What does it mean? We don't know. Let's figure this out. And before I show you what our answer is, although many of you have seen this before, I do like to stop and ask this question. So if you can type your answer in the chat, I would appreciate it. What messages about money did you receive as a child from adults? I'll ask again. What messages about money did you receive as a child from adults? Monica, what are people telling me?
Someone said save, save, save. Someone said we didn't have any. It doesn't grow on trees, to save it. Another, money doesn't grow on trees. Saving and budget, paying your credit card bill monthly. Always pay your bills first. Use cash and work hard. Yep.
All right, thank you. I really appreciate that. Those are mostly the kind of messages that I really like to hear. One of my favorites still, however, is the person who told me that her mother taught her that as long as she had checks in the checkbook, she could still write checks. And that clearly was an indication of a money message gone wrong, and not necessarily a positive message. So that's one of the things I like to remind us as educators, is that what people hear necessarily at home, on TV, in the community is not necessarily a positive message about money, and we can help fix that by teaching them things that maybe they didn't hear at home. Oh, I'm sorry, let me go forward. And this is the definition of financial well-being that the Bureau eventually identified and has shared with the public. And I'm not going to read it for you, but I am going to interpret it for you. And my interpretation is that it's about how you feel about your money. So we have people who are rich people who aren't doing so well when it comes to their money. So they might make $1 million a year. We hear this with athletes, unfortunately, on a regular basis, but they're dirt poor and in debt. And you hear about people who don't have high incomes and are incredibly frugal and are managed to put money away for a rainy day and just do incredibly well. And so it's about how you feel about your money, how you feel about managing money. It's not about necessarily how much you make. And I love that definition of financial well-being, because as educators, that really helps us realize that what we need to do is meet the child where they are and help them figure out what their path forward is. It's not about just telling them it's a one-size-fits-all situation, but instead it's helping them figure out what motivates them and how do they get to be an adult with adult financial well-being. Another piece to this is this, and that is these 4 elements of financial well-being. Last year, I was going around talking about a FINRA study that had come out that said 40% of Americans could not afford a $400 emergency. And that just seemed like so significant last year. And then 2020 happened. And suddenly we have proof that, yes, $400 really does make a difference in people's lives. And so this this grid showing that having that control over your day-to-day, month-to-month finances is critical for financial well-being, that you have that capacity to absorb a financial shock is critical, that you have financial freedom to make your choices to enjoy your life, and that you're on track to meet financial goals. As you can tell from this, unfortunately right now, there are many people that are not experiencing financial well-being. And so if we can help our kids be in a place that if something like this ever happens again, they can weather it better, we will be doing them a great service. So I just like to point that out. What the Bureau did after they identified these elements of adult financial well-being was ask themselves, well, how do we get kids to be adults with adult financial well-being? And they identified these 3 building blocks of youth financial capability. And the key parts are executive functioning skills, financial habits and norms, and financial knowledge and decision-making skills. And to point out a few of the unique pieces to it, one is that we can start working on this when children are 3. And the executive function part has nothing to do with math or memorizing factual knowledge. Instead, it's that ability to tell ourselves no, and have that self-control, planning, and problem-solving skills. And so we can start teaching it when people are 3, but certainly it is a lifelong skill. I say that we're busy working on it right now as we try to have ourselves do physical distancing with other people, and we're constantly telling ourselves, no, you can't do that. No, you have to stop this, and things like that. So so many of us are re-engaging with our executive functioning skills in a different way right now. And then there's the financial habits and norms. And this one is the one I say that educators, this is our sweet spot, because helping kids find out what motivates them, what their healthy money habits will be, what their rules of thumb will be. It's just so critical. It's that, how am I going to pay my bills? Am I going to pay at the beginning of the month, middle of the month, as soon as the bill comes in? What's going to be comfortable to me? And then also that giving to charities. A lot of us have been asked to give now. A lot of us have needed to take now, and trying to figure out what our rules of thumb are for that, and what we're comfortable with. Those kinds of knowing what our norms are, our rules of thumb are, help us navigate these times of stress so much better. And the other piece is financial knowledge and decision making. And that's the one that we do well. We teach the students how to comparison shop. We teach them where to go to find good information. And we just need to keep doing what we're doing and doing it well. And make sure that they know where to go when they need certain information. All right, so CFPB, once we identified this research, said, how are we going to help educators communicate this, use this, work with this? What kind of resources can we provide? So we broke it down into 3 groups: young children, school-age children, and teens and young adults. And to start out with, our resources for parents and caregivers. I put this in my presentation because a lot of you either are parents, or you're working with parents, or you've got teenagers who might be looking for projects that they can do that will give them community service or something like that. And so being able to work with the younger kids can be a great community service project. So we have Money as You Grow for parents and caregivers. It takes our building blocks, executive functioning skills, financial habits and norms, and financial knowledge and decision making, and makes it a way for parents to learn how to have those money conversations with their kids. And so this is a place where parents can go and get resources and activities. This is an example of some of the information on the website, where we have them talk about money choices, big and small. And this one, how do you have a conversation about getting a pet? Should we, shouldn't we? What do we need to consider? What do we need to think about? How buying a car financially will impact our family? How moving to a new home will affect our family? How we pay bills, and why we pay bills the way we do, and why we pay with a credit card, and how it's the same as paying with money, but how it's different. How do you have those conversations? We give you some of those conversation starters that can lead to money talks. So this is something that we like to recommend that you either use for yourself or that you share with other people. All right, we also have a youth financial education landing page. And this is our portal to our information on teaching financial education, learning about how to teach financial education, that research that I just went over, how to assess students' financial capability skills, and also digging deeper into our actual research in teaching and teaching financial literacy education. All right, so now I want to talk about my financial literacy activities, because one of the things that happened when I first started telling teachers about this research was they said, yes, looks like great research, but how would I possibly use it in my classroom? And so what we did was we created youth financial literacy activities, but of course you need to be able to find them. Our activities are designed for people who are new to teaching financial literacy, and also for teachers that are experienced educators but are looking to reinforce concepts that maybe students aren't getting in the way that you want to yet, or that you want to enrich certain topics that maybe the kids are really enjoying and want some more of. And so I have a variety of things for people. One of the unique parts to our search filter is school subject. So whether you are a CTE teacher, an English teacher, a PE teacher, a science teacher, or a world language teacher, you can find a financial literacy activity that you can use in your classroom. One of the newer ones that we have is about teaching Energy Star products and how to calculate what is giving you the best value and how you could possibly reduce your monthly expenses by Energy Star ratings. Another one is we build on the topics of earn, save, spend, protect, borrow. So as you can see on the far left side, we identify things like you can then save for college or pay for college. This activity that has an activity detail card is talking with your family about paying for higher education. And you can search by length of the activity, 15 minutes, 45 minutes, or 90 minutes. You can search by student characteristic if you're in an urban versus rural school, things like that. So if you haven't visited our site and just looking for something to use for reinforcement, please stop by here. If you've got some colleagues that are like, man, I'd like to put a little financial literacy education in my courses, they can find something here. And when you click on an activity, you get this activity detail page, and it gives you the big idea, the essential questions, the objectives, and what the students will do. It gives you everything you need to fill out a lesson plan, even the Bloom's taxonomy level. And in this case, this creating a buying plan is one of our most popular activities. So if you're saying what should I look for when I come to the site, please think about this creating a buying plan. It is very, very popular. All right, so now let's do an activity, see what they're like. All right, so let's click over here. This is protecting your Social Security number. This is just a quick one. I think it's just like a 15, 20-minute activity. It's designed more for middle school, but I think it can also be used in high school. I would use it at the end of a lesson, or like a tax unit or something like that, just generally talking about your Social Security number, just a quick little starter or something like that in the classroom. And Monica, we're gonna have people typing in the chat again for this one. Okay, here's your first statement, true or false? Social Security numbers aren't important, true or false? Social Security numbers aren't important. What are they saying, Monica?
All
True
false.
or false?
All falses.
Okay, excellent, very good, wonderful. Okay, here's the second question. Sometimes it's okay to share my Social Security number. Sometimes it's okay to share my Social Security number. True or false?
More of a mix on this one, Leslie. Trues and falses.
Exactly, that's what, thank you. That is exactly what we usually get with it. Now I'm going to read you what my legal department approved as the answer and explanation to this. We say that it's true because sometimes you'll have to share your number. For example, when you get a job, rent an apartment, open a bank account, or apply for a credit card, you may need to share your Social Security number. always ask why someone needs your number, how it will be used, and what will happen if you refuse. All right, very good. And the third one and the last one that I'm going to do today, if someone uses my social security number, I'll find out right away. If someone uses my social security number, I'll find out right away. True or false?
All falses on these, Leslie.
Okay, very good. Thank you. That is correct. All right, so let's try another one. This one again is for middle school, and it's turning hobbies into earnings. And I, again, really like this one because what you do in it is it's layered, so you do multiple sets, but you start out having the kids look and say to themselves, well, what do I do in my spare time that I enjoy and that I'm really good at? What do I do in my spare time that I enjoy and that I'm really good at? And then after they brainstorm some of those ideas, then they start to figure out, well, what of these could be a money-making opportunity? And from there, they start to talk about, you're having conversations through this about the gig economy and side hustles, things like that. And as kids, they might not have, they probably don't have full-time jobs that they're going to have a side hustle with, but what they enjoy and what they learn to do in their spare time now could turn into a side hustle along with a job in the future. And also gives you a chance to talk about what adults do in terms of side hustles. One of the examples that I like to give is my children really enjoyed playing soccer. And so what we did to help them make money was we had them trained to be referees when they were in middle school. And then they started reffing the little kids games. And by little kids, the 4, 5, 6, and 7-year-olds. And they not only learned how to play the game better for themselves, but they also were making money during the seasons twice a year and learned some good skills and had some money to play with that way. So having this conversation with the kids gives them a chance to start thinking about, well, what could I start making money with these things that I think are hobbies right now, but may actually turn out to be a little more lucrative later. So this is an activity that we've heard starts some really good questions with the kids and also sometimes in the home. Okay, this is another one. Now this one is for, again, it's for middle school, but it's just a 10 or 15 minute one. It's really fast. You see the three bullets that are the 3 of the questions that I've pulled out, but it's about exploring governmental agencies. That question of what do some of these agencies do to help protect me, my family, make sure that they know who to go to for different things. For this question, the first bullet I have here, our home was terribly damaged in a hurricane. My family needs immediate help with a place to stay and needs our help figuring out how to save our house. Which government agency should we contact? Okay, you got the 7 of them up there. What do you guys think? What's the agency? Type it in the chat.
Leslie, I'm seeing mostly FEMA.
Perfect, wonderful. Okay, second one. My cousin needs help figuring out how to get an auto loan. Which agency has tools to help him?
Seeing some NCUA, some CFPB.
Okay, everybody that put CFPB, yay! Okay, thank you, that's correct. And the last question, my grandmother is about to retire. Which agency will help her with her retirement benefits?
Seeing mostly SSA on this one.
Thank you. Social Security Administration, absolutely. So even though again, this was targeted for middle school, I feel like because it's just a fast 15-minute one, if you've taught this and you're reviewing it or you're starting a unit and you just want a quick starter, this is an idea for an activity. All right, so then I'm going to skip this one and do this one. And I want to talk about our Youth Financial Capability Survey. This is a unique survey. Our focus groups have told us that what they really like about this is that it's not about facts. It's instead about how students feel about managing money. It asks them questions about if they like to spend, or how much they listen to their friends when they're making their decisions. It's the stuff that we're talking about. They're looking at their executive functioning skills, looking at their financial habits and norms, and to some degree looking at their financial knowledge and decision-making skills. And right now it's a PDF, and we have 3 different groupings: the age 3 to 5, the 6 to 8, and then 9 to 12. And the students can complete the survey in less than 20 minutes. And then there's a separate scoring worksheet that they put their answers into, and then that tallies. If you're using it online or electronically, it automatically tallies and gives the students an overall financial capability score between 1 and 100. And as a teacher, you can score the surveys yourself. You can have the students score their own surveys, but then it can give you a discussion about on the scale that you see there: beginning, developing, proficient, advanced. And students feel good about knowing that they're making progress towards their skill building, and realize that, oh, I've got more to learn. The scoring worksheet has some additional information on what they can do for their next steps in terms of building the financial capability. And I can announce that in this school year, by the end of this school year, we will have an online interactive version of this. So it won't just be a PDF, it'll be something that a student can complete on a mobile device, on a computer, and the automatic tally will happen that way. So I'm really excited. That's my project coming up for this school year, and we'll have that available hopefully by the end of the school year, but definitely for next school year. But meanwhile, this PDF version is available. So something to take a look at. One of the other things that we have is within our activities, we sometimes go and make recommendations about other governmental agencies. We make recommendations about some nonprofit agencies. And I just wanted to let you know that you can come to our website and search out those information. Like you can see, we have a link here under Earn for taxes. Click on that show button and you're able to see what resources we use or recommend for learning more about taxes. So if you're looking for some additional resources for different topics, please stop by our activities resource list, see what activities we use and that we recommend as part of what we do. One of our other activities, let me make sure that I'm going to skip this one. I want to talk about our Money Circle activity. This one's one that's definitely unique to us, because our Money Circle is our family members, friends, and other people in our lives who influence our decisions. We have a Money Circle toolkit for adults, and I had my team build a more kid-friendly version of it. And it gets kids to start thinking about how the people in their lives help them shape their decision-making about money and how they spend, and they identify whether they're a saver, spender, planner, impulsive, worry, or if they have confidence in their money, their financial decision-making, and also the people that are in their lives. How do they manage their money? And is this the way you want to go forward? Who should you talk to about different decisions that you need to make? But this is a great activity. We have about 2 or 3 different activities covering multiple age groups on the topic of money choices. So this is something to look for if you are interested in having that conversation with kids about how they feel about spending money. And if I haven't ever mentioned before, MEM, if you have a JROTC program in your school, MEM is something that you might want to recommend to them. It's Misadventures in Money Management. And what's new for this school year is that it's an online graphic novel. Students make decisions about the characters as they move through the story, but we've also created educational guides, so our teacher guides and our student worksheets that extend the learning for young people as they complete a character story. So if you've got an ROTC program and they're interested in teaching financial literacy and also need to teach the special protections that service members have available to them, voila, here's misadventures in money management that they can access. So if you haven't visited mem.gov, please stop by, check that out, and I'll recommend that to a service member that, or to a JRTC program that might be in your schools. And I'm going to also mention that we now have some new publications that can be ordered. We have a new series for elementary schools called the Money Monster Stories. And the Money Monster Stories there are 5 of them, and they can be ordered and sent to elementary schools that might be interested in teaching the Money Monster Stories. Bookmarks are available that can be ordered. We also have posters, and the posters are for K-12. Options for storing your savings, understanding credit scores, keeping your Social Security number safe, what is debt, what is insurance, what's your money style, already talked about that, and how to read a pay stub. So if you're looking for some free materials that you can use in your classrooms when you get back to them, or if you're in them, then you can order our posters, booklets, things like that for absolutely no cost to you. And so if you haven't been to our bulk publication site, we're highly recommending it because everything is of no cost. And then just finally, Ask CFPB has almost 1,000 answers to commonly asked questions about a variety of topics, including mortgages, prepaid cards, student loans, a variety of things, and they're just fast, easy to understand answers. So if you haven't stopped by Ask CFPB, that's also a place where you or your students can get some answers to questions. I really want to thank you very much for giving me some of your time. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, so stop by and check us out, and thank you so much. Did I end on time? I think I did.
Yes, you did. You did perfectly. Great. You're a model to all the presenters. Thank you so very much, Leslie. I know that if we're all sitting here, everybody would be clapping loudly. So just imagine that. And I'm sure, and people are thanking you in the chat as well. We did have one question about, will we be, oh, here's a question from Karen. Says, is there a place where we can really browse all of the Ask CFPB answers? You can search them and I see questions on that site, but I don't see a way to browse.
I think that if you go, once you click to see an answer, then you have access just a bunch of answers. But with 1,000 questions, it's hard to just, you really need to figure out what your topic is, and then you're able to see a ton of questions. So unless they've changed it recently, they were doing an update to the site. So if I am misspeaking, it is because they've just recently updated the site, but I used to be able to go in and see in a topic a bunch of different questions all at one time.
Oh, thank you. We also had a question. This is for the organizers. Will presentations be made available? I did reach out to presenters and they sent me PDFs of their presentations. So we will make those available for all attendees. And thank you, Monica, for putting the MIM site there in the chat as well.
Sure, and Leslie, one more question came in through the Q&A, and it said that it was a question for Leslie. A textbook that I have suggests to put upon employment or available upon request on a job application instead of putting your Social Security number on an application. I never know where that application will be sitting for a while awaiting someone's review, and do you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely, yes. That's a perfect example of a situation in which you give it up when you have to, but there's too many ways that somebody can check a variety of things about your background before you get to that final decision-making time. And so I would never put it out in a place where just anybody could get their hands on your Social Security number.
Okay, thank you so much, Leslie. We're all clapping right now, and I'm going to, in just a moment, I'm going to send you back down to be a attendee again.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so everybody, one thing that we're going to do now is we're going to announce the winners for the first round of shredders. So I have used my random number generator to pick 13 of you, and I'm about to read off your names. And actually, I'll share my screen here again so that you can see what you're supposed to do when and if you win. Okay. So, the winners are Yvette Bedford, Albana Salapia, Karen McGrath, Fran Dandridge, Stephanie Sadler, Ashley Long, Tyrone Spain, Jessica Johnson, Denise Person, Linda Lauderdale, Melissa Kemp, and Melody Rivas. Oh, and one more, Marcia Campbell is our last person in this go around. So give yourselves a pat on the back, applaud yourselves, make sure that you open up an email to Tia there, and she will send you your shredder in the mail. Everybody needs one of these things while we were talking about personal security, securing your personal information. Okay, so next up we have Janelli, Director of Educational Outreach at NextGen Personal Finance. And she's here to tell us about NextGen's resources. So I see that she's been upgraded to panelist. So I will stop my share. And Janelli, thank you so much for joining us. And whenever you're ready, you can share your screen and take it away, okay?
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I'm going to go ahead and do my screen share, but let me know if you all are having any issues seeing the presentation slides or hearing my voice. Otherwise, I'm going to assume we're all good to go. Okay, looks like we're good. I got a couple thumbs up. All right, awesome. So I'm going to jump into this presentation and I'll start with a quick introduction of who I am, but I definitely want to encourage you to participate in the chat box with questions all throughout the session. I'm not going to kind of hold to the end, but of course, you know, we will make space at the end as well. So I'm going to be talking about financing post-secondary education. In other words, paying for college. So that session is definitely something that NGPF offers quite a number of times. And for those of you not familiar with NGPF, it stands for Next Gen Personal Finance. And we are a national nonprofit organization, a pretty small team of folks who work across the country to really focus on expanding access, I guess I should say. I wanted to say providing, but really there is so much financial education happening. We're focused on expanding access so that all students across the country have a personal finance class for a full semester before they graduate college. And so our official mission is Mission 2030, which means that in the year 2030, every single high school kid will not be able to graduate without saying that they took personal finance for a full semester. So really, we believe this is life-changing. We believe that every student deserves it. And so we're here to provide it. We create curriculum, resources, we offer free teacher professional development training, and we also provide advocacy resources as well. So today I jump in my role, I do a little bit of everything. So I do offer professional development training to teachers and educators virtually and pre-COVID times in person. We'll be in person again in time, but virtually has been pretty much the one way. We're offering PD for free online all the time. And all of those resources you can find in even events, you know, you can go sign up for our PD on our website, ngpf.org. And I also do a little bit of curriculum creation. So a little bit of InCap Friday stuff, which is our current event series, which we'll look at a little bit today. And then also advocacy as well. So I kind of dip my toes in all of the different facets of the work that we do at NGPF. And I really love the work because we really get to focus on impact and expanding, like I said, expanding access through providing resources. So today, the resources that I'm going to focus on are going to be kind of curated and structured in a way that follows the financial aid timeline. So we'll start with brushing up on content, which is really just catching up to speed with everything going on, you know, current events that have kind of changed things, and the best resources for teaching all of this stuff to students. All right, so before I jump into any content, I just want to start by saying I can't not mention this. I have to mention that NGPF is offering scholarships up to $2,500 for students who enter the payback challenge. So this is an opportunity for you to offer this to your students. You play the game Payback, which is found in our NGPF arcade. And when you play the game, it essentially gives you a simulation of what it's like to go to college and to have to be responsible for paying for college as well. So the game is online. It's available through our arcade. And the really cool thing about it is that students really have an eye-opening experience before going to college about what they can expect from college, what money decisions they'll be making on a day-to-day basis. So once you play the game, or once your students play the game, they have an opportunity to actually participate in the Payback Challenge, which is a contest where they can submit a short essay or a video. This is the first year where we're actually accepting video formats. And so students can respond to a prompt that we offer for them to just kind of talk about how the game opened their eyes to understanding college and the responsibility that they'll have when they're there. And once they submit that to you as a teacher, your job or as an educator is to really go through all of your submissions and pick the best one, which you're going to then nominate for NGPF to consider as a national winner. So this year we're giving away $50,000 in scholarships, and you can see all the details in the chat box. Thank you to Monica for dropping that in the chat box for me. Super fun game, really exciting contest. Last year we had so many students win, and we actually posted it on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram and Twitter, and the students were so obsessed with, the game and just being able to talk about college and learn about student loans as well throughout the process. So all of those details are in the chat box. And if you have questions about them, definitely feel free to reach out. They're on our blog, and there's a video on our YouTube channel that explains the rules and all of that good stuff related to the contest. All right, so let's start with preparation. So in the financial aid process, it really is going to start with preparing before even thinking about where you're going to get money from for college. And for students, this looks like really thinking about how you're going to approach college. What are the right colleges for you? What is the cost that you can actually afford to cover? And this is something that a lot of times, unfortunately, a lot of families and students won't really discuss until very late in high school. And so we want to encourage these conversations as early as possible by providing resources, activities, homework assignments, so that students are in the norm, kind of like it's normal in their home environment to have these kinds of conversations, even if they tend to be really difficult to have, which most of the time they are. Most average families don't just have piles of money lying around to give their kids to pay for college out of pocket. So these conversations can be very difficult. And so we want to provide resources to make them a little bit easier to have and to help students and families feel informed about what their options are. So this is a really great infographic. When you click on it in the slides, which the folks at Virginia Jumpstart will provide, you can see that it gets really, really large, and you can have your students kind of go through this infographic and answer questions about it. It actually comes directly from NGPF's curriculum in a unit called Paying for College. So this is definitely one of just the best resources I would say on our site, is just everybody having access to come on here and get a full unit to teach students about how to pay for college. I'm going to drop the link to the Paying for College unit in the chat box. And what you'll notice is the page is broken up into two sections. On the left-hand side, we have full semester course lessons. So if you have a semester of time to teach Paying for College, this is just, everything here is just a gem for you. The lessons are created, the student activity packets are created for you. It is all standards aligned to the National Jumpstart Financial Literacy Standards up to grade 12. I mean, really, it is just doing you such a service in terms of saving you the time to create all these resources from scratch. The other really cool thing about NGPF for anybody who is newer to our resources is that everything is customizable. So if you decide you want to use one of these resources, for example, Paying for College 101 is our intro lesson. You'll have students identify the different benefits of going to college, the importance of researching a starting salary before choosing your major, understanding costs associated with college, the difference between sticker price and net price, and having a conversation with their families. So all of those things, just really getting into the 101 information about paying for college. If that's a lesson that you're really excited about and you want to use it, you can just open up the Google Doc on our website. And once this loads, of course, my internet's being a bit slow, but once this loads, you can then go into your own Google Drive and make sure that you're logged into a Gmail email account. And if you are, you'll be able to see this menu bar across the top: file, edit, view, etc. So what you can then do, if you've taken a look at this lesson, it looks good, you've got your objectives, your Jumpstart standards, you've got your activity packet for your students is linked right here, all of the resources to run this lesson. The infographic that I just showed you is linked at the very top of this lesson. So your students would click that and enlarge it and use it to answer these questions. So some simple questions to open up the process of thinking about college. Why do you think savings, scholarships, and state aid are a good preparation step to take before applying for federal aid? So really getting students to think about just this preparation phase of the process of financial aid. And so you'll go through this. If you really like what you see and you want to use this lesson plan in your classroom, you can literally just go right up to where it says file and select make a copy. Once you make a copy of this lesson, and you can call it whatever you want to call it, I'm going to call it Yaneli's version of Paying for College 101. So now I know this is my version of it, and I'm going to organize this in my drive. Now we're all educators, so I know that your Google Drives are just as organized as mine, broken down into folders and subfolders. So you'll find the appropriate folder and put it in your drive in the correct folder. So once you do that, you then have a version of the Google Doc that is editable by you. So you can customize it, make any changes. You can really make it your own. And if you need to, one of the things I always tell teachers, don't be afraid to remove the NGPF logo, to make changes to the objectives, to the wording. Really make it specific to your students and your classroom. A lot of teachers will say, I don't want my students to know that I use NGPF, because then they'll go onto the NGPF website and then they'll start looking around, and I just want to keep NGPF a secret. And I go, that's great, do that. Keep NGPF's website as a teacher resource. Don't tell students about it. I mean, if you remove the logo and don't send them to the website, there'll be no way for them to know where you get the resources from. So feel free to remove the logos that we place on our resources and really customize them in making them your own. Once you make your own copy, again, you can customize and change it any way that you see fit. So that is one of the things that I think really stands out about NGPF in terms of providing resources to teachers, is allowing you to customize those resources and giving you the autonomy and the control to say, this is a great template, but I want to take it a step further for my students, whether that's making it more culturally relevant, whether that's differentiating it more for students with special needs, whether that's finding ways to support English language learners. Whatever it means for you, we want you to take our template to save time, but obviously go ahead and further customize it and differentiate it for the students in your classroom and the needs that they have. You know your students best. So a couple of just quick statistics in terms of why it's so important to include this type of education in the classroom is because right now tuition and fees has just been increasing steadily since the 80s and 90s. And you can see the data for the orange line of data that shows an increasing line across the top. That's going to be for private schools. And then we have state schools and public two-year colleges are the dark blue and light blue lines across the bottom. All of them are trending upward. Private schools are trending upward at a lot faster of a rate. And you can see that for example, four-year public state schools, if you look at in the 90s, we had a $3,500 average cost out of pocket for families, whereas now, and that was 89/90. Now, 2019 to 2020, the out-of-pocket cost on average for American families is actually over $10,400. So we're seeing, really big spikes in the cost of college. And at the same time, what we're also noticing is that families aren't always able to really keep up with these rising costs. So what's actually happening is student loan debt is also increasing. So just for the first time in 2019, the average amount of student loan debt that was owed by a graduate of college increased just above $30,000. So this is a really, really high number. And so because more and more students are starting to take on debt and really struggle to pay for college out of pocket, it's so important that we start as early as possible with preparing them for understanding what their commitment is when they're going to pay for college and what their options are. That's like the biggest piece. And so that starts with really helping them understand that nobody really has to pay the sticker price that they see when a college advertises their price on a website. For example, most of the time what people see on a sticker price is going to be the published cost of attendance. And that will include tuition, room and board, books and supplies, meal plan, all the things, right? And so that's generally going to be a pretty expensive price. And a lot of people are shocked by that sticker price. And that tends to scare a lot of people away. But the reality is that we end up paying the net price when you pay for college, which is the price of the school that you pay out of pocket. And that usually means that you're going to apply all grants and scholarships and anything that you have been awarded that is essentially called gift aid, which is free aid. And then you can see what the net price will be after that. So this is super important to help students understand. And as you saw earlier in the Paying for College 101 lesson, we can clearly see one of the objectives is to really have students have that conversation with their families and help them understand the difference between sticker price and net price. So how do we do this? How do we help students understand, when they're just conducting research? Well, first they have to compare the schools that they think are the right fit for them. So we use the college scorecard in the Paying for College unit to help students open up, just a portal of research, give them access to figuring out how can they compare all the different schools that they think they might want to apply for, so that they can see what are the specific costs, the specific programs that are offered, all of the different things about that college before committing and, just having their heart stolen by a certain college without really thinking it through holistically as a decision that includes a financial aspect and not just the academic and the social aspect. So you can actually search by school if you type in, or search with specific functions here. So graduation rate, average cost, specific degrees. You can actually type in the name of a university. So I'm in New York City, so I can type in New York University, and all of the different New York schools will pop up, and then you can kind of click on a specific individual one and take a look at what that particular school's resources or specific details are. So here you could see, I'm gonna go this way, so you can see the specific graduation rate for this school, which in my case is SUNY New Paltz, upstate New York. You can see the average salary after completing college, average cost, and so many more details, right? So just so much information for students to be able to kind of, compare, do just like a comparison chart for all of the different schools that they're considering. And so once they have an idea of the schools that they want to narrow down on their list, then they can start to think about how much these schools actually cost. And one of the really cool activities that we have is actually an interactive called How Much Will Your College Cost? So what they can do is, and I'm actually going to drop all these resource links into the chat box so that if you're interested in clicking any individual resource, you've got the links. So what they'll do is they'll open up a tuition tracker interactive, which is at tuitiontracker.org. And then they'll go through the specific interactive with the instructions provided on their interactive worksheet. So the cool thing, what NGPF does is we'll go onto the web and we'll look for the best interactives, the best games, the best videos, and the best websites and resources that can really create an engaging experience for students to learn. And especially right now that most people are learning remotely, to make sure that it's adaptable to a virtual setting. So you can jump onto this activity, check out the questions, and immediately you can see that it's asking students to target the difference between sticker price and net price for college. And so then they'll go through, they'll choose 5 colleges to research. They'll have a spreadsheet that they need to complete to specifically compare the schools they chose. Just really helping them to personalize the research, which I think is fabulous, because I remember, when I was in high school, sitting down to compare just like general schools. And I think that what makes it even more of a buy-in for your students is when you make it customized to them and their interests and their likes and their choices. So if they're thinking about art school, like when I was in high school, I was an artsy kid and I wanted to go to art school. So for me, it would have been a spreadsheet where I had 4 different art schools or 5 different art schools, and I had to compare the costs versus, just a general template of options for schools. So really the great thing about this, your students are able to, whether that's in Google Classroom or in Canvas or in Schoology, or whether it's just emailing it to them as an attachment or in Microsoft Teams, whatever environment you're learning with your students, really giving them access to these resources so they can take it and customize it for their own needs and experiences. And the great thing is they can then sit with their family and go through the spreadsheet and the tracker and kind of, do this together. This is one of our most popular activities when it comes to the Paying for College unit. But I think that the important thing that I wanted to share with you all is that a lot of times families will think about tuition and they'll think about room and board and the meal plan and textbooks, but they totally forget about the living expenses that are non-academic related that come up. And these tend to be the things that, like, I don't know, like in a personal budget, you might call these like your leaks, right? Like you might have like a bunch of little leaks in your budget where you're buying small things that kind of come up that you forgot you needed. And they end up, putting a leak in your budget because you didn't expect to be spending so much money on it. Little by little, it adds up and, your budget starts to bleed. So for me personally, this is one of the most important activities, the monthly college budget, because when I was in college, I was very fortunate to get a full scholarship, but it covered tuition, room and board, and it covered, some basic supplies and fees. When it came to like my laptop, my textbooks, my science lab fees, and I took a lot of art classes. So like all of my art supplies, these things were not covered by my scholarship. Buying food, going shopping at the mall with my friends, feeling pressured to experience social events, all of those things I didn't expect. It wasn't addressed in conversation with my family or with my friends, and nobody really prepared me for that type of experience. So with this monthly college budget exercise, it is honestly one of my absolute favorites because it takes students through the exercise of having to think about what is your college budget going to feel like on a monthly basis when you're all on your own in college and trying to focus on academics, but things come up that you really just didn't expect. So I went ahead and dropped this monthly college budget exercise or activity in the chat box. It's a really great one from the Paying for College unit. And anytime that you open up a resource in NGPF's curriculum or on our website, if there's a little gray subtext that's underlined on the top right-hand corner of the resource that says Spanish version, it'll usually be in gray. You can click on that and it will take you to the exact same resource or activity in Spanish. So we have a lot of resources available in Spanish. Not all, but many are. And so if you see that Spanish version blurb or text in gray, click on that and open up that Spanish resource. If your students are Spanish speaking and need that resource, you can definitely take advantage of that as well. So it's a really great one where your students will actually have to make a copy of the monthly budgeting template spreadsheet, and then they'll work through it to make sure they go through every single aspect of their budget. So they have a certain amount of money available, and then things start happening. They get a refund check. They have to buy a gift for their family friend whose birthday it is or whose graduation party is coming up. They have to try to save money, right? Because school's coming up. And then now they do steps 2, 3, and 4, and they have a new balance available. So now, life keeps coming up. They've got upfront costs that they have to cover. They have to decide what laptop they're going to get. Are they going to get a bargain laptop for $400, a mid-range laptop for $820, or a high-end laptop? We all feel pressure to get the nice things. So of course, the students are going to want to have a MacBook or whatever fancy laptops are out now. But they really have to think about every decision in a strategic way financially, rather than just the social benefits of having a status symbol like a MacBook or something, right? And for me, I felt a lot of pressure, and I ended up using credit cards to buy my laptop and to buy all the things, clothes and shoes. And I ended up with $20,000 of credit card debt by the time I graduated college. So if I had a teacher or a family member or a friend sit down and go through an exercise like this with me before I went to college, it would have saved me so much money and just helped me understand so much better what I was getting myself into and what borrowing money actually means. What the terms and conditions that you're agreeing to, what those represent and what they actually mean. So those are two of my favorite NGPF activities, specifically for thinking about preparing to teach students about college. But we have so many others. And before I jump into a couple more, I just want to say that right now there was just released, I think like 2 weeks ago, a brand new study from Sallie Mae, which comes out every single year. It's called How America Pays for College. So this is the 2020 version, which has all of the data from 2019-2020 school year. And I'm going to drop the link in the chat box in case anybody's curious. But essentially what I just wanted to point out is just how interesting a lot of the statistics in here are. For one, families are spending way more out-of-pocket costs or dollars on college. So right now, the average that families have paid for out-of-pocket on college is $30,017. And that is really at an all-time high. It says the highest percentage of planners in the 13 years that Sallie Mae has been doing this study. And then the other interesting thing for me, which is even more important that we're teaching students about college and especially about FAFSA, which we'll talk about in a second, is that fewer families are filing the FAFSA, which means that they're missing out on thousands of dollars in federal aid. So in the 2019-2020 school year, only 71% filed for FAFSA, which is a decrease from 83% 2 years ago. And interestingly enough, the number one reason why families say that they did not file FAFSA was because they believed that they would not qualify for any financial aid. So fun fact, there is no federal cap on income for receiving federal financial aid. And so if that means that your family is a high income earning family and you just think automatically because we're high income earners that we're not going to qualify, you've got it all wrong. Everybody, no matter what your income is, should sit down and just spend 30 minutes, 40 minutes to complete the FAFSA, because most people assume they won't get aid. And the truth is the average American family does get aid. It might not be a ton of financial aid, but it will be something, and something is better than nothing. And so one of the things people don't realize is how much money is missed out when people don't submit FAFSA. So here's a fun question of the day. On NGPF site, we post a daily question of the day every single day on the blog. And if you subscribe to the blog, you'll get the question of the day every day to your email inbox. So this one is from our Paying for College unit, and it is somewhat recent. It's from September 2019, so hasn't been updated for 2020 yet. But the question is, how much free financial aid is lost to families who do not file the FAFSA? So I'm not talking about loans. I'm not talking about subsidized loans or federal unsubsidized loans. I'm talking specifically about free financial aid. So this is grants, money that is given from the government to students to pay for college. And go ahead and drop in the chat box what you think your guess is. I think I should be able to see the guesses come through. Yep, okay, I can see Karen's guess is $5 million. Any other folks have guesses they want to drop in the chat? Elizabeth thinks it's just 1 million, so not as high as Karen's guess. Ooh, Tawana says 10 mil. Moses says, wait, wasn't it $1 billion left on the table? We're not talking millions, we're talking billions here. Ladisha says 3 million and Hope says 8 million. All right, so we got a couple of different guesses ranging from 1 million to 1 billion. So let's see what the answer is. 2.6 billion with a B. $2.6 billion. And so what we do with the question of the day is we put the question up, then we put the answer with the resource. So if you're ever like, well, where did this information come from? You can always click on the link in the bottom right-hand corner, and it will show you exactly where we got this research from. So in this case, this was a study done that was published by NerdWallet, where it talks about the 2018 FAFSA study, where the statistics result in $2.6 billion of free college money just lost by families for not submitting FAFSA. So there's a lot of money on the line. And this is specifically money that was budgeted for helping Americans pay for college. So we have to make sure that our students are A, aware, B, educated on how to do this. So every question of the day slide has 3 slides: the question, the answer with the resource, and follow-up questions. We're not going to go through these follow-up questions, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like in case you want to use question of the day resources from our website. Oh, great question. Elizabeth says, how do I get these? So if you go to ngpf.org, actually, I think I have the website open already. So you go to our website, you're going to get our homepage. On the resources section, on the resources tab, there is the 5th sub-tab says question of the day. You can open that up, and that will take you to all of the question of the days from our entire curriculum organized by unit. And then there's also a complete question of the day library as well. And I'll drop that link in the chat box, Elizabeth, in case you or anybody else is interested to check out more of our question of the day resources. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next phase. We talked about preparation, how to get students to learn before they're even in college, before they even need any money for college. What are the things that they need to know, and what are the things they need to be doing? So now it's time to actually apply. It's time to apply. And this is where things get real, because the students are like, I'm applying, and the actual applications cost money. I have to pay tuition once I start. There's so many costs associated with school. And if they're gonna go away, they have to travel. So then it starts to really get real for students. And so we really want to make sure students feel confident about the process for applying, so that there's as little possible stress related, and that way they can, kind of understand what they have to do. So before I wrap up, I just wanted to share the FAFSA resources that we have. And what I'll do is I'll just drop the links. These are all different images coming from the FAFSA resources that we have. What do you need to fill out the FAFSA? How do you do it? What are the deadlines, and all that kind of stuff. One of the resources that I really want to emphasize is the FinCap Friday episode that just came up, which is about what if your financial situation changes because of, COVID, for example. This is happening right now. So we just put out a FinCap Friday episode called FAFSA in the Fall. Highly recommend checking it out. And it's under the resources tab where it says FinCap Friday. And I'll just show you a couple of the questions before we wrap up here, which is current and prospective college students can complete the FAFSA starting when? So then your students would take this quiz, and it can be a Kahoot version or an Ed Puzzle version. So you could choose how you want to implement it. And of course, here the answer is October 1st, which just happened a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. And so having students understand how much aid is available. We're not talking about millions of dollars. We're talking billions, and not just billions, but hundreds of billions. So really getting students to understand that FAFSA means that you have the opportunity to apply for federal student aid that will help you to pay for college so that it all doesn't fall on you. So a couple more questions here, all really great, helping you to understand what you have to do. And so I'm just gonna drop the link to those resources in the chat box. And yeah, I'll just wrap up with the final slide, which is our contact information. We do have one quick plug that I want to make, which is that we have a certification course called Paying for College. And all of the resources that I talked about today, plus more about how to teach your students about FAFSA, preparing to pay for college, are just really dove into in a lot more detail than obviously what we could do here on a webinar today. And it starts November 2nd. The leader or the facilitator is Amanda Vols. So if you're interested in taking the certification course, just head on over to our website and you can sign up there. And then of course, I'll make sure that everybody has the slide presentation in case you want to access any of the links for teaching FAFSA resources or anything that I mentioned other than those. Thank you so much, everybody, for having me on the call. And I'll stick around in case there's any questions for me in the chat box. Oh, Stephen, I think you are.
I saw that. So, thank you so much, Janelle.
Of course, thank you.
And everybody, yeah, please do type any extra questions for her that you have in the chat box. And you can also thank her and clap for her in the chat box as well. So yeah, thank you so much, Janelle. And next we have as our next presenter is going to be Van Noland, who's a vice president at Wells Fargo, as well as a senior manager for their Wells Fargo at Work program. So Van, we will make you into a presenter if you can prepare to share your screen.
Can you hear me okay?
Now we can hear you. We'd love to see you also.
Okay. Great, great. All right.
Go ahead whenever you're ready. You're our last presenter before the break at 2:40.
Oh gosh, pressure.
Better than being better than being at the end of the day.
That's right. That's right. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Van Noland. I'm with Wells Fargo Bank, and I've been with the bank for about 24 years, and my focus is on financial education. I currently run our financial health program for the Hampton Roads and Richmond areas. So I want to share with you today some ways how, building up our youth, our students is so critical and so important today. So we're going to show you some ways how you can do that in the classroom, virtually, using skills that are online, but also you can access different things where we can actually, we can come in virtually as well as bankers, and also hopefully when COVID subsides and we all get back into the classroom, we can actually join you on the classroom. So I first want to start off with our hands-on banking site. And this presentation, we'll start on hands-on banking. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to show you some of our college prep education, and also part of our At Work program, which gives you all as educators knowledge on different financial subjects so you can share them with your students, and also even other members of your family or what you might need in real life. So we're going to start off with hands-on banking, and we will, let's see here. Trying to get to the next page here. There we go. So, as we know, financial education is a need for all of us at every stage of life. And hands-on banking kind of works with that at every stage of life. But everyone from elementary school, middle school, high school, and even as adults, college students, adults, we need continuing need for financial education, because the complexity of financial education, the complexity of the banking system changes every year. And things are just change. And, you know, we need to be up to date on different things and what's going on in the economic climate. Who among us here would have thought last year at this time that we'd be going through a pandemic this year? We would be doing all these virtual virtual workshops and virtual sessions, so in virtual classrooms. So a lot has changed. So we want to try to keep up to date on that. And certainly during this this year, a lot of our economic situations have changed with COVID and other things. So we want to make sure everyone is up to date on the economic climate. You know, financial education also helps us make sound financial decisions. And, you know, Wells Fargo is committed to this, to education. This is program, there's no charge. This is for the community. And we'll get into that here. So Hands-On Banking is a free financial education program. It's web-based. It can be web-based or traditional instructor guides. You get to choose what's best for your classroom. And I'm sure right now probably the web-based is the best way to go. But there is a web-based program. We'll get that out, the link to you shortly here. But it's web-based and instructor guides. It is available in English and Spanish. And even though Wells Fargo runs this website, there's no commercial content. You're not going to have any promotion of any products or services. This is all about education. This is our commitment to our communities to help everyone succeed financially, because we really believe that, you know, starting when you're young, if you can learn certain financial goals and skills, that will help you throughout your life. I mean, I know myself, like a lot of others, wish maybe we had a little bit more financial education back during school. So when we got into college and beyond, we might have known a little bit more about credit, a little bit more about, you know, how to save a little bit money, and even how to save for our retirement. So no commercial content is in any of these programs. Individual, self-paced, you know, class-based learning. Again, you get to customize the curriculum. You get to decide how far we want to go today or this week in learning a particular topic. Again, this is very customizable. The standards-based curriculum, and we'll go through those standards here shortly, but the standards meet, especially here in Virginia, they meet all Virginia state requirements. And again, we got a slide here showing what all those curriculums are. And it's an animated, the web base is animated and very highly interactive, where the students get to interact in with this. And it's very fun to present because it's, you know, financial education can be, if you think about banking, it seems like it could be kind of, well, not so fun to present, but this makes it very fun to present. So just an overview of the program here. So the curriculum, it really focuses on 4 age groups. And of course, for just for your information, it does include adults. It has a special focus on military, seniors, and small business focus, but really focusing on young adults, high school, and those going into college, teens, grades 6 through 8, and then the kids, really grades 4 and 5. And I have seen it used for younger students than that. It just depends on the grade level. And here I was talking about the education standards. So as you can see, you know, economics education, it goes into voluntary national content standards in economics, financial literacy, national standards in K through 12, personal finance education, by Jumpstart Coalition, mathematics, principles and standards for school mathematics, grades 9 through 12, and English language, standards for English and language arts. It's all in those standards that that this program is approved for. So handsonbanking.org is how you access this no fee, this free website, handsonbanking.org. And when you access that, it will bring you up to the home page. And there's a wealth of information there. It really, I tell you, every time I go to the website, even before I prepared for this, I had an opportunity to learn a lot more, because it's changing. There's new articles all the time on popular topics. Right now, there's a article online about, you know, getting through COVID. So there's a course section which provides full curriculum by age group and the segment. Featured content section highlights new resources. And the community education section shares resources for workplaces and nonprofits. That's just some additional. But you would really take a look at the educational area. So, and again, this is just an example that the website can also be viewed in Spanish as well. So both language, English and Spanish, is offered. So the student curriculum is aligned to Common Core. And again, there's information online at handsonbanking.org where you can read more into that. But again, make teaching money management simple is 1, 2, 3, and that's what it's used for. Again, with those certain age areas that we focus on, there's lots of online content that's very beneficial. So giving you an example here, hands-on banking for young adults, for high schoolers. This is what the web page would look like. And again, they can access this. You can access this on your smart board, or they can access this on their own computer. But there's all kinds of resources. First of all, you can see there's a, choose a topic, getting started, how to earn money, spending smart, save, invest, and build wealth. That all important, all about credit. And again, I think it's so important to talk about credit in high school before you get into college and have that access to that credit. Schools and, school and resource information. But also they have this, but there's all kinds of different information down here. Tools, library, glossary, and other information is available. To kind of give you some types of lessons here. Spending smart, lesson 4, buying a car. So, if we have a high school student who might be interested in buying a car, it goes through a lesson on that. What you need, a job, insurance. There's conversations going back and forth virtually to answer these questions. And again, it's interactive, so your high school students can also interact with this as well and help answer some of these questions. But that's one of the courses that's available is, buying a car. Some more information on that, new versus old. It goes through everything: depreciation, insurance, warranties, latest features and options, conditions, and again, the used cars, plus and minuses. So there's all kinds, again, different information here that the student can access. And again, it makes it interesting. It makes it more informative because a lot of high schoolers are going to start wanting a car. So this kind of gives them the tools they need to do that. Some of the other things that I was talking about on that other page was your library. So when you click on the library, you get all kinds of information, articles, ATM security, bankruptcy, bonds, credit cards, credit scores, FDIC insurance. What are all these things? It's taken some of us as educators and adults a while to learn what some of these things are. But again, this is an opportunity for someone in middle high school that if they want to learn these different things, they have access to that. The glossary, even, the glossary goes through even more. As you can see here, it talks about the 401k plan or a 529 plan. What type of accounts are there? So there's a lot of financial information here and a lot of good information available. Articles, again, more articles available on this website. Budget tips, banking alternatives. And some of these, some in the demos also shows you how to use a middle school and a high school student on how to actually use an ATM machine. They're constantly changing. There's a lot of new things, a lot of new resources out there. How to use the mobile app for your bank or your credit union. There's information available on that as well. So this is looking more about what it would look like for, the middle schoolers, middle school, hands-on banking for teens. It's a little bit more interactive. Looks like, it looks like a game, introduction, you and your money, going through the budgeting, savings and checking guide, Again, touched on that credit and even a little bit about smart investing. And then what's so fun about this is you're able to actually give them a certificate. They actually completed the curriculum at the end of this. Again, another example, by budget for a family of 4. In this example, the family takes home $3,500 a month in income, and you can look how it's divided up. They give you examples, and there'll be questions asked on that. But it really gives them an opportunity to look at, hey, one day after college, I'm going to be looking at this. What do things really look like? What does it really look like out there? So again, different interactive tools available. And for our younger age groups, we even have even more interaction. We have actually outer space Zing who's coming to Earth, and he's going to show you the money system on how it works on Earth. So you and your money, budgeting, savings and checking, credit, and even an assessment. So again, very interactive. Again, it has interactive calculators, as you can see here. You want to go to a concert, it costs $20. You have to get the ticket very soon. So you decide to combine both your entertainment budget and your leftover money, your available money. How many weeks will it take you to have enough money to go to the concert? So it also engages your math skills as well. So again, very good interaction is available. Again, easy, simple navigation on this. Mobile service, on your mobile device, English and Spanish, course maps, all kinds of different tools. And there's, basic calculator, that ATM simulator I was talking about, glossary, contents, navigation controls. So a lot of different resources available to you on the hands-on banking side. And hands-on banking is definitely, it's free, as we mentioned, it's fun, it's interactive, non-commercial, fully bilingual, available online, or if when we get back into the classrooms, you can have printed instructor guides. And also in the past as well, you've been able to contact your local Wells Fargo representative, and we've been able to come in as part of our community outreach and actually teach some of these in the classrooms. So hopefully next year, when things start maybe with COVID getting a little bit better, we can also start that back up as well. Education standards base, and again, it's important information for all ages and stages. And design for your classroom, so you get to design, once you get around on the system, you can actually design your own curriculum for your own students. All right, are there any, I don't know if we have the chat box, if we do any questions before I move on to our next segment?
There is the chat box there, and I'll let you know if any chats pop up, okay? We also have Monica monitoring the chat, so she can cut in if there's any pressing questions.
All right, thank you. All right, we're gonna move on. This is an example of another program that is available. This is, how we work with paying for college basics. And this is more geared for, your high school audience. And this would be currently a virtual option. Currently, in the past, we've actually gone into the classroom as our community outreach to promote this. As again, we want to make sure everyone, who wants to go to college is prepared to go for college. So this is just a very quick, again, we have your 5-step guide to paying for college. And this is available on the Wells Fargo website. And this is great information. I mean, this is, again, as the great presenter before me was talking about, all those information out there to help people prepare themselves for college. This is very important because a lot has changed and it continues to change. So, this our website, our interaction, it contains how to complete the FAFSA, apply for those scholarships. Scholarships, there are so much money out there left on the table from corporations and companies out there that people are not taking advantage of. There are lots of scholarships out there, lots of money from companies out there that are willing to give those to students, but a lot of it's left because people are not taking advantage of it. Step 3 on this website is estimate and compare your total cost for college. Step 4, determining, if you need that additional money. If you need that additional money for supplies, for food, for your laptop, determining if you need that additional money. And then again, step 5 is exploring additional finance options. Sometimes, getting the FAFSA loan is not enough, and you have to go out to outside sources, other lenders, to help with that. But wellsfargo.com/5steps is the website here that you can utilize, and you can actually go through these 5 steps. And again, this is just for examples. Using the FAFSA form to apply for financial aid for college or graduate school. It will show you how to go through this. studentaid.ed.gov/FAFSA is the website for that. You can actually see how it works there. This right here, this is where I would like to talk about just for a moment. So the TFS, Tuition Funding Resources, scholarships website. So I was talking about scholarships. So this is a very important site for a student to visit. You can apply as early as your freshman year of high school, and you can continue to reference this site often throughout high school and even college, because some of these scholarships are available for graduate students as well. But what happens with this website, if you go out to tuitionfundingsources.com, it's going to ask you some questions, and the more questions you can answer, the better it will tailor your needs. But if a student knows where they might be thinking of going to school, if they want to go to Old Dominion or VCU or one of those schools, they can enter that information. They can enter in maybe what their area of focus might be, and it will show the student every scholarship that is available for that school. Not just from Wells Fargo, but all different companies, all different scholarships that are available there. And there's a lot of them out there. About a year and a half ago, a successful story from this website. We had one of our own employees. Her son was going to college and applied for a scholarship on there, and was awarded almost $20,000 from an automaker to go to school, $20,000 for just doing a research project. Basically, they wanted to know how many cars passed their window every day at home, what color and what make, but they were doing research. All they had to do was type up the paper and send it in, and they had $20,000 from this. So there's lots of money out there available, but just taking the time to look for it and to do the research for it, this is a great way for a college student to work on. So tuitionfundingsources.com. Again, your 5-step guide to paying for college. We heard earlier about net price. So you have a calculator available for that, and it will give you all the data. It'll give you what's needed and what you can input into the calculator, and you can review the estimated cost. And again, all this information will also let you know if you need additional money to attend college as well. So, research all financing programs by looking at eligibility requirements, your interest rates, total loan costs, including fees, repayment options, and monthly payments. They'll give you all that information on there. And again, these are different ways you can contact. Again, wellsfargo.com/college steps or to /5 steps. I'm going to leave this up for just a second. It's probably the best resources to get this information. And again, this is available to Wells Fargo customers or non-customers. It's part of our community outreach. So this is some great information that you can access. All right, I'm going to do the last part right here. I see we're starting to, but this is actually for you all. This is another service that we provide. And again, we can do this virtually now. And then hopefully one day back in the school. Well, this is information for you as educators, is to make sure that you all are up to date on what's going on in the financial world. That's also what we like to do, is we want to make sure that, again, everyone from elementary all the way up to seniors and senior citizens are taken care of financially. So if you yourself or someone in your family is interested in learning more about how finances work or reinforcing your skills, we're here to help. And we can do this and help this by one-on-one consultations, group consultations, or even webinar consultations. So as you can see from these statistics, 43 million people, and this was at the end of last year. So I can only imagine that some of these numbers have changed this year due to COVID. But 17% of us are financially vulnerable. 54% of us are financially coping. That means we're struggling some, but we're all, we don't have it all together. And then the 29% says that they're pretty well doing pretty well. So we have education to help with this. Again, 47%, spend less than income. 34% are paying bills on times, and 30% have a manageable debt load. This is just information for you to see, and we go into each one of these topics.
Oh, Van, can I interrupt briefly?
Yes.
We can see your screen that says thank you, but not the other screen.
Uh-oh, okay. Let me go back. Can you see it now?
No, still just thank you.
All right. Okay, let's see. How about now?
Still the same, I'm sorry.
Still the same. Huh. Says you were screen sharing. Okay, so still nothing?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe I don't know what it is.
Okay, and it was a PowerPoint, not a PDF. Maybe that's the difference.
Okay.
But, and I see my time's getting close, so I do want to, at least with this, we have different topics that we can share with you, from budgeting and savings to credit to retirement, investing. And again, this is for you as educators to learn a little bit more about in those segments. And we can certainly help that through Wells Fargo. And again, we can do that through a virtual platform, and hopefully, again, through a in-person platform. But again, this is to help you all learn about financial education, and can even help you with family members or even with your students. So, again, the hands-on banking program, no fee. It's a great interactive service for your students. You can design that how you want it to be in your curriculum, paying for college, and then, helping yourselves with your own financial education. These are ways we can help. Is there any questions that I can take for you all? And I do apologize for the last screens not being able to be seen.
Yeah, me too. We'll keep an eye on the chat, and if anybody has a question, please do enter it into the chat before we leave here. But if there are none, then I'll have to say thank you very much, Mr. Nolan.
Thank you all so very much.
Presenting. Like I said in the chat, I used hands-on banking when I was a high school teacher, and my students always loved it, and they always got a lot out of it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we have the thank yous flowing in as well from the chat, and we will go ahead and move on then. All right.
Very good. Have a good break.
And Monica, if you could shift Van's what kind of user he is, I'll go ahead and move us on to the next part. Okay, so everybody, it comes to the time in our session right now where we're going to go on a break, but I have just a little announcement before we do. And let me go ahead and pull up the the agenda as well. So when we come back, we're going to do another drawing for the shredders, and Tia will be with us to do that. We're going to have a 15-minute break, so please do get something to eat, and then we'll power home for the next 2 hours after that. I'm going to re-announce the names of all the people who won a shredder the first time around so that we don't miss anybody. But with no more ado, unless any of the other presenters have an announcement, we'll go on our break, okay? I'll see you all in 15 minutes at 2:55, where we'll hear from first Tia Grizzle and then Thomas Katsevich. Okay, everybody, we are back, and I'm here now with Tia Grizzle, who's our coordinator for the shredders today, and you're going to be emailing her if you are a winner. So I'm going to read out the people who are the new winners, and then we'll go ahead and and I'll list off the people who won before. All right. So we have, for new winners for the shredders, we have Sharon Myers, Edith Hamilton, Jocelyn Forrest, Megan Wolford, Pat Four. We've got Elizabeth Pays, Deanna Frank, Samantha Bruno, Allison Wolf, Tia Grizzle. I have you. You're a winner. You don't get to win, Tia. We're gonna pick somebody else, okay? Mike Sadowski, Matthew Weston, and I'm going to pull up my random number generator here to do a new person, and that's number 128. And that is Molly Wash, who's also on the Jumpstart board. This is rigged. Okay, number 71. The new winner is going to be Jocelyn Alaya. You are the winner.
Yes, and I think you have to do one more because Sharon Myers won.
Oh, okay. Yes. Thank you, Tia. Here we go again. Let me pull this up. And I want everybody to know what's going on. So you see my random number generator there? Do you see that there, Tia?
Yes.
Okay, good. Make sure everyone can see it. Okay, the next one is going to be number 93 on the list, which is Rebecca Wood. Rebecca Wood, you are a winner. Okay.
Yes.
So if I just called your name, please send your email to Tia, whose email is right up there on the screen.
Yes.
And I'm going to quickly read off the people who won before. So some of you, Tia, how many people have emailed you so far from the first one?
So far, out of the, I believe 15 or 14 that you announced, only 4 have responded. So please make sure you email me, tia.grizzle@fortleecu.org. These are really nice shredders. You can shred up to 6 pieces of paper. It's the cross shed, so it's like a ninja chopper for your paperwork to make sure those documents are secure and shred. And you can do your credit card shredding as well.
Oh, I didn't know that they were that good. Could shred cards as well. Okay, I want one now. Okay, so the previous winners: Marcia Campbell, Melody Reeves, Melissa Kemp, Linda Lauderdale, Denise Person, Jessica Johnson, Tyrone Spain, Ashley Long, Stephanie Sadler, Yvette Bedford, Albana Salepia, Karen McGrath, and Fran Dandridge. Okay, those are our winners for right now. So thank you very much, Tia. And we will move on to our next candidate. I'm sorry, next, not candidate for winning, our next presenter. And this is going to be Tom Katsevich. And he is a colleague of Cherry Dale's over at Virginia Credit Union. So he's here today to tell us about Virginia Credit Union's free financial education resources. So take it away, Tom.
All right. Thank you so much, Stephen. It's great to be speaking with all of you guys here today. As Stephen mentioned, I do work with Cherry Dale, who most of you all know. And I'm really glad that I get to present to you guys today because I get to kind of toot Cherry's horn a little bit. She's really modest when it comes to a lot of this stuff, but Cherry and the Virginia Credit Union really have been kind of on the forefront of personal finance, especially here in Virginia, kind of from the beginning. Like we remember from a time back in the early 2010s before personal finance was a required standard of learning here in the Commonwealth. Right around the time Leslie was talking about with the CFPB being created, we wanted to make sure that like our CEO at the time, a woman named Jane Watkins, was really passionate about financial education and literacy. And so she wanted to make sure that we were educating our members in our community and really kind of getting ourselves out there. And so that's when Cherry came along and really built our financial literacy programming kind of from the ground up. Including some of the resources I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about here today. So this is our team. We're led by, as you guys know, Cherry Dale. That's me in the middle. My name is Tom Katosich. I'm the Youth and College Financial Education Manager primarily working with a lot of colleges and universities. We recently announced a fairly large endowment to VCU, and so we're working with them to really expand our financial education offering to VCU students and really provide some academic research along with that grant. At the bottom, you'll see our coworker, Sylvia Watford. She primarily focuses on our adult education programming. And I do want to make sure to note that this year, Sylvia has won a statewide credit union-based service award for her work with the Federal Corrections Center in Petersburg with a reentry program around education, financial education and literacy, working with guards to help soon to be released inmates on pulling their credit and understanding how to get back on track financially. So we're really proud of all the work that we do here at the Virginia Credit Union. So I'm going to highlight a few things that are available for you guys to utilize and show you how to get to those things. This has been a very impressive few sessions so far today. There's a lot of really phenomenal materials out here that are available for all of you teachers to use and utilize. You know, a lot of these are from national organizations, and they have incredibly sophisticated technological resources and things like that. We're kind of a homegrown resource here, and our content is designed specifically around the personal finance components of economics and personal finance standards of learning. So the current SOL, or the current Smart Start curriculum, is 6 lessons, and they are completely based around all of the personal finance components of EPF. So they include traditional printable lesson guides, and there are some videos attached to certain lessons. We have activities and PowerPoints. All of that stuff, like the resources that you've been exposed to here today, are free to utilize. I'm going to show you that here in a second. This is another couple of resources. As we've kind of moved through this COVID situation, you know, we've been doing our best to turn a lot of our traditional resources and making them a little bit more web-based and adaptive, and we're continuing to do that and work on that. So we've taken a couple of our lectures and lessons and turned them into short and mid-sized videos, and those are available for you guys to use on our website as well. So I'm going to pop over to vacu.org and show you where you can find a few of these lessons very quickly, and then we can come back to announce a couple cool things that we have coming up. So if you're not familiar with Virginia Credit Union, our website, vacu.org, is really kind of our hub, like most of these other resources that you've learned about so far today. This is what our front page looks like, is vacu.org. But if you go and hover over the Learn section, or even click on this Learn link here, you'll really find a wealth, like a huge amount of resources available. And primarily for you all is as teachers and educators, is this financial education link here. You can also go to financial education, or vacu.org/teachers, which will also directly get you to this page. And here you'll have these different resources available. If you go to teachers right here, this will show you exactly how to get to our Smart Start curriculum. It's called Smart Start. And we'll look at one of our most popular lessons that we do is this Making the Most of Your Money for Teens, which is a really awesome lesson. As you can see here, there's a short video. This is a little video about credit scores and reports. And then you have a PDF of a lesson plan that's available. This is actually the PowerPoint that goes along, and there's activities that are associated with all of these things. And here's the lesson plan that teachers have access to. And as you can see here, it is specifically designed for your learning objectives. So it makes it really easy to follow. If you also kind of scroll down here through this particular lesson, it has a teacher guide with like some, potentially scripted components to it. So, again, it's like really kind of plug and play. This resource has been available for teachers to use for a number of years. If we were in person, I would have like hundreds of small bags of M&Ms with me so we could do the M&M game, which some of you are probably familiar with. Unfortunately, we're not in person, so feel free to take these resources and use them to your best ability, like pick them apart, use what you think will work best. find ways that are creative to make these resources work for your students online. If you go to the teens section here under our financial education page, we also have these videos that I was just referencing, and some good articles for young adults. Again, we have comprehensive things, but we also do encourage you to use our resources kind of individually and for, as you see fit. Back to the Learn tab here. Did want to also highlight this one component too. If you come down here a little bit, it's vacu.org/learn/calculators. We have tons and tons of different, very kind of unique online calculators that you can use. Of course, we have standard ones like loan amortization schedules and how to calculate what your loan payments would be. How much lease can I afford? Time value money calculators, all these kinds of things. We're constantly updating these. We're constantly adding on. As you can see, it's a substantial amount. And I know that a lot of these calculators are available online at various different websites. But as you can see here, this is pretty clean and it's not junked up with a bunch of ads and things like that. So whenever you're sending your students there, you can feel comfortable that you're getting it from a really, really great resource. So we definitely want you to use these resources and please hope that that you do. Like with most of the other stuff, this is all free for you guys to use and access. On the PDF that I sent out, I think I mislabeled the URL. So I think on the URL that I sent for the PDF, it just said vacu.org/calculators, but it's actually vacu.org/learn/calculators. So I wanted to make a note of that. We are also available to do live virtual presentations, as well as, as Van was referencing, like in-person stuff whenever that becomes available again. This past late summer, we did a live presentation for some of our young members. We called it Teen Money Lab Live, and it was based in Kahoot. And we covered different topics around like how to buy a car and, understanding how to budget, like a lot of the fundamentals. We're getting ready to do another one in early December as well. It's live, it's free, any teens can register. We're probably going to do it through Kahoot again because that was a good interactive way to do it. And this one's going to be all about how to earn money, like how to make money as a teenager, like not like some, conceptual thing in the future about getting your, going to college and getting a career. This is about like, how do I get my first job? Like, what are references do I need to know? Should I just do it online? What is my first W-4 going to look like? How do I get paid? Like, what do I do with my paycheck or direct deposit? What is a pay card? Like those kinds of things. So we're trying to make our content super relevant and new and fresh. We are available to come to your classroom. If you email me directly, we can try to schedule something for you. It might just be good to have some kids hear another voice, somebody different. This is hard for everybody. This whole situation has been hard for everybody, and Zoom fatigue is very real. I know I feel it, and I'm not, a teenager. I can only imagine what that's like in this kind of environment. So if you want to change it up a little bit, don't hesitate to reach out. When we get back into person, feel free to reach out to us again to kind of come into your classrooms and do things in person. We have a couple of things that are in the pipeline getting ready to come out. We've heard a lot of presentations about paying for college, which that was the new EPF that was added this year, 18, and we're working on a addition to Smart Start to fill that need as well. We call it investing in yourself. It's going to have a similar format to what the resources we have available in Smart Start. We're also working on a really cool careers video lesson or careers lesson that includes videos where we're going to be interviewing different credit union employees in like operations and collections that are going to be like real hands-on interviews that talk directly to specific EPFs around these certain things like collections and transaction operations and branch managers and things like that. So again, this is in the pipeline. We're working on it. We're really hoping that it's going to be really good. So please stay tuned for that. And kind of a big announcement here. We're actually looking to expand our team. We're looking for a senior financial education specialist. And so we figured it would be no better place to advertise that than here with a good chunk of the economics and personal finance teachers from across the state. So if you're passionate about personal finance in general, if you're passionate about or if you're interested in trying to expand your skill set and work in a different environment than in a classroom and work with teachers in all different grade levels, including some adult education things, like we do programs with like the Girl Scouts and we host teen money camps. We're looking for somebody that is going to be able to help us modernize and update some of our curriculum. And working at the credit union is fantastic. We got a great flexible schedule and amazing benefits. And so if you're interested in maybe applying or getting more information about that, you can email me directly if you have questions, or visit vacu.org/careers. So here's a recap of some of the resources that we have available, or just, you know, places that you can go to find this information. We are doing a teacher of the quarter every year. We do we award $250 to a teacher that is deserving, which I know all of you are. So if you go to vacu.org/teachers, you can find out how to apply or encourage or nudge somebody to recommend you, because I'm sure all of you are very deserving of that. So we appreciate everything you guys do, and we're here to help support you guys, and please let us know how we can do that better.
Okay, everybody. Tom, thank you so much. If everybody would look over at the chat, you see the links that Monica has posted for us to the VACU. I didn't know that internally you called it VACU. I call it VACU because I'm a member at the credit union, but I didn't know that I could call it that.
You can, absolutely. Vacu.org. It's the 100%. That's what we call it.
So you see all the teacher resources from VACU there in the chat. Tom, we're starting to see the thank yous coming in, and so everybody is now applauding for your presentation. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
So up next, we have our session on distance learning resources from the Federal Reserve. And this is from David Bass, the Senior Outreach Specialist, and Kevin Woodcox, another Senior Outreach Specialist, both in the Economic Education Division there at the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond. So, as I see David popping up, as soon as you're ready, David, you all can take it away, okay?
Hi, I'm here. Let's see here. All right. Oh, hold on one second here. Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Bass, and I'm the Senior Outreach Specialist for Economic Education at the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond. And this is one of two sessions with resources from the Federal Reserve today. My colleague, Kevin Woodcox, will be sharing our Invest in What's Next online course for students to plan for life after high school later this afternoon. But in this session, I'll be sharing a variety of online resources from throughout the Federal Reserve System that are really perfect for this virtual learning environment we're all in. But first, I do need to offer an official disclaimer that the views and opinions expressed within this presentation today are those of the author of myself. They do not represent an official position of the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond or the Federal Reserve System. So in this session, I'm going to start with sharing two resources from the Federal Reserve System, federalreserveeducation.org and Econ Lowdown. So the first resource is Econ Lowdown, and you can access it at econlowdown.org, or you can go through the St. Louis Fed's education page. It's found there as well. And basically, Econ Lowdown is the Fed's instructor management system for online resources that allows you to assign and track your students' progress in online instruction. And you can explore some of the resources that are offered in Econ Lowdown without setting up an account, but without logging in, you're not really able to access them fully or get access to additional resources. So it's very important to set up an account. It's a real simple process, and once you have an account, you can log in using the instructor login area, which you're seeing on the screen right here. But if you're just want to kind of browse the website, the homepage, you can look around, you can preview some of the resources, and you can see here on the screen some of the resources offered that are previewed: government budgets, cards, cars and currency, Ella Saves Today, New Frontier with monetary policy, and fast cash and payday loans. And there is a checkout, the resource gallery, and you can see a lot more resources that are available. So, but if you've not registered, you'll need to do that first in order to set up a classroom for your students. But that step is really easy and a pretty painless process. I'm going to walk through how that works right now. So once you've set up an account, you've registered and logged in, you'll see your home screen, and it looks like this. And I'm going to start today by showing you the steps to setting up a classroom, and then some additional resources you'll have available to utilize with your Econ Lowdown account. So the first thing you'll want to do is to click on the My Classrooms button. You'll see the link there with the arrow, but then there's also across the ribbon at the top of the page. That'll access it for you as well, take you to the exact same place. And then from there, you'll be prompted to enter a class name, dates, and then add your students' names. And you could choose to do this information later, complete the information later, but it's pretty easy to kind of do it from the beginning after the registration process. So when you create a classroom, you can also opt to use your Google sign-in, which generates a course code. And the course code is what's generated that you'll need to share with your students for them to enter when they sign in to use the program. So the next step will be to create your course syllabus. So you create your classroom, and you'll enter your resource gallery area where you can add items to your course syllabus. And we have over 400 resources that are available today. So it might be helpful to use the filters to narrow down the resources you're looking for. Most of the resources are for high school students, but we have well over 100 for middle school students and about 30 or so for elementary school students as well. So as I'm filling out my mock resource list here for my classroom, I selected a video Q&A, for example, an online course, an audio Q&A, a reading Q&A, and now it's time to add them to my classroom. Now, if you have several sections of the same class and you've created a classroom for each one of those sections, Econ Lowdown makes it easy because you can click all of the boxes that apply and add the same set of resources to all of your sections all at the same time, which is great. So, and then if you're in the resource area, kind of selecting your resources, but you had forgotten or neglected to create your classroom earlier, it still allows you to do it later in the process. So you can click on the little create a classroom box and not lose any of the resources that you have selected up to that point. So per my example here, I've added the resources to the classroom for today's session, but the next step is really critical. So for your students to see the resources that you've selected, you must go to your classroom and push the green publish button. So here's the publish button in green. You need to click on that to set everything in place. So when your students log into the course, from their perspective, this is what they'll see. The course name and dates at the top with your name and then the list of assignments. And they would click on the pink launch button to access each one of the assignments. So I've assigned all 4 items for the length of the course, but you can edit the dates that each assignment would be available based on your particular due date. So it's very customizable in that sense. So once your students begin completing assignments, you'll be able to track their progress in the student progress area. And note across the top, you'll be able to see their progress in each of the resource, in each type of resource. And you're able to produce a progress report if that's what you want to read the data as. So students are only listed with their first names and then last initial if it's applicable. And it shows how many times they viewed a particular video, attempted a quiz, their score, the day completed, and then the date due for the assignment. And you can easily export this information into another format if that's helpful for you. and then you can upload it into another platform if necessary. So in terms of the resources that are available through Econ Lowdown, there's a lot from the Federal Reserve System here, lots for middle and high school audiences in particular. And the first four are examples from our video Q&A series. So the first one here on your screen is Life Goals. And this is part of the Tools for Enhancing the Stock Market Game Invested Forward video series. And this one shows how saving early, then investing, can help young people attain longer term goals such as education, employment, entrepreneurship, buying a home, and retirement. The second example is the amazing $2,000 pizza, and this one emphasizes the importance of using credit cards responsibly. Soft skills is another example. This one's developed in the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, and this video stresses the importance of academic preparedness, and it really introduces soft skills and professionalism to students. And by viewing examples using several workplace scenarios, students learn about the importance of soft skills in the workplace, including communication, cooperation, professionalism, work ethic, and many others. And students learn the key concepts about interviewing for, obtaining, and keeping a job. So a lot of emphasis on soft skills here. And then one last example. This is the first episode from the No Frills Money Skills, a series from the economic education specialist, Chris Bertelson, and explains compound interest and growing money. So this is just a taste of what the video Q&A series are like and the different subject matters and topics, but there are over 170 other video Q&As for middle and high school students to choose from. So a lot of great examples here. And they all have assessments. So it's the video, and then there's an accompanying assessment that goes along with the exercise. So in addition to videos, there are also articles that are available, can be used in tandem with the videos. This is an example of a resource on peer-to-peer payment services. Again, great for middle and high school students, and there's an accompanying assessment as well. Here's a resource related to soft skills, so this would be a great one to pair with that video Q&A just mentioned a slide ago, along with an assessment, and again, geared for middle and high school students. So the next resource I'm going to talk about is federalreserveeducation.org, and it's really a great repository of all of the resources from economic education across all the Federal Reserve banks that have the resources. It's kind of a one-stop shop for them. So it's a very handy tool. I just want to draw your attention to a couple of features to help you find the resources that you're looking for pretty easily. So you obviously see the search box there, and you can obviously type in any topic or resource you're looking for, and it'll search for it. But I think it might, because there's so many resources that can be found here, it might be easier to use the resources by audience tab up top on the right. And that's a great way to narrow your results by grade level. So once you click on the grade level you're looking for, it will take you to another page that has additional filters that you can narrow down the search, such as resource type, subject, topic, etc. So that's probably the better way of handling it. So two other things to notice on this page. So obviously we pivoted to virtual learning and distance learning, obviously in the classroom setting, and for most people in the world these days, but the Fed has too. So we have been doing a lot of our professional development and sharing of resources with educators online. And because of this, all of the banks have been doing as such, and we're not really restricted as we would have with in-person events by our district boundaries. So all of the programming from all of the Federal Reserve banks in terms of professional development and resource sharing, it's all available to any educator across the country. So definitely check out this website for other resources and professional development opportunities from throughout the Federal Reserve System. We've had gosh, probably approaching 50 or so webinars on a variety of topics, including Insurance 101, the impact of COVID on food and energy, and anything in between. So definitely check those out and register for any of the upcoming ones or any of the ones that are available on demand that you may be interested in. Next, federalreserveeducation.org is also a great site to order print publications from any of the reserve banks. So I know a lot of our educators use this feature and definitely order a lot of resources. They are all free from the Federal Reserve System, so definitely look for it here. Depending on the age you teach and how your school district is implementing distance learning, there might be blended in-person or fully virtual, but we are still providing print materials available, and we will ship them out to you. So that is definitely still an option. So here's some of our resources that are very popular. I say dollars and cents. Some of you in the audience here may have had access and used this resource. It's one of our most popular. This is a printed budgeting game, and you can use it with your students, and it walks students through making 7 budget choices based on the lifestyle they'd like to lead as an adult. So they're going to pick a job they're interested in and getting an accompanying student loan payment based on the education required for that job, and then see if their budget can balance at the end of the day. So there are definitely opportunities for chance where things can go really right or really wrong based on a flip of a coin, just as things go really right and wrong financially in real life. So this is something that students can complete pretty independently and then share the outcome with the class or with the teacher in a written assignment. It could be done as a group exercise. So it's pretty flexible, but a very popular resource. And this is just more of what dollars and cents looks like with some of the other materials involved. So this is one of our very popular infographics that we offer, Your Connection to the Economy. And this infographic guides you through your role in the economy, the Federal Reserve's role in the economy, and then the ways that the Federal Reserve connects to your daily life. So there's also an accompanying activity that goes along with it, but it's a great way to kind of introduce topics related to the Federal Reserve and what it's about and how it relates to everyone in their daily lives. So Your Connection to the Economy. Navigate is a resource from the Dallas Fed, and it's an introduction of careers in college and investigation of what interests the students, and it's really designed for 7th to 9th graders. So Econ Focus is our research magazine geared towards the public at the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond. It's for a general audience. You can subscribe to it and have it sent to you, and you can use it as a teaching tool in the classroom. We have lots of educators that do that. And jargon alerts are a page of the magazine that describe an economic term or principle and really looks to break it down and define it and make it understandable to kind of explain the jargon, so to speak. So students will have the opportunity to review this jargon page, learn about the jargon, and respond to questions about it. Shown here are examples of full unemployment and business cycles, but we also have a new one that was just released on real interest rates. So we're always working on updates and new resources in this area too that are available in Econ Focus with the reading Q&As. So definitely think about that as a potential classroom resource. So we also have a lot of other infographics that are very popular that cover economics topics as well as personal finance, and all are available online. The economics topics include GDP, monetary and fiscal policy, the Fed and its dual mandate, supply and demand, trade, economic systems, and the circular flow. And then personal finance series covers topics including banking, budgeting, credit, entrepreneurship, financial preparedness, human capital, savings, and investing. So the posters are very colorful, they're informational, but they're more than just something to hang on the wall. Each poster has an activity, like a lot of other resources that accompany the main resource that can be accessed at the website. So, and these are available as PDFs, but you also, like everything else, when you request hard copies sent to you as well of these fold-out posters and infographics. And so just as I mentioned, that there are accompanying activities that go along with the infographics. This is one that was developed from the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. I want to mention another resource that's available, the standard personal finance curriculum. And this is designed as a high school personal finance course, and it's divided into 7 units that address the 6 national standards for financial literacy and a standard on decision making, respectively. And each unit includes a description, talking points, and links to recommended resources for teaching that particular given standard, along with a selection of supplemental resources. And you can download the complete PDF by clicking on the link. And I say that because we'll have this presentation available for you all to look at after the conference today, after the summit. So at this point, I'm going to see if there are any questions. And I know my colleague Kevin Woodcox is here as well to answer any questions that come in.
David, you did have, this is Monica, you did have one question asking if the resources in Econ Lowdown, are they similar to what's in the National Jumpstart Clearinghouse, or are they specific to the Fed?
Are they specific to the Fed, or are they part of the National Jumpstart Clearinghouse? Was that the question? It was kind of hard to hear you.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, that was the question.
I'd be happy to answer, David.
Yeah, please.
So within the Federal Reserve System, we look at both the Federal Reserve itself in our resources, but we also include economics and personal finance topics. So whereas within the Jumpstart Clearinghouse, it's just materials created for Jumpstart that are on personal finance only. But within the Fed, we have all the Federal Reserve System resources created that are targeting both economics and personal finance, as well as the Fed on monetary policy and its role in the economy.
Any other questions?
That was all that I saw so far.
I see one came in the Q&A chat about dollars and cents being available electronically. It is available as a PDF, so students can take it, and if they have the ability, they can write or type into that. So yes, it is basically available electronically. However, the print version is our preferred method.
Mm-hmm. And we can send you that print version, and it is something that you could, if the students are able to get a hand of it, if you're doing virtual learning, but they're able to get a copy of it, that you could, walk the students through dollars and cents across Zoom or whatnot. So it's something that's pretty flexible and easy to use through the computer, so to speak. Well, if you have any other questions, feel free to please reach out to me. My email address is up there, or our department. And then to receive text alerts from Econ Ed at the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond, you can text Econ Ed to 33777, and we'll keep you up to date with our latest resources and upcoming professional development workshops and programming. So stay tuned.
Okay, thank you so much, David and Kevin, and thanks for fielding those questions as well. I use Federal Reserve resources all the time with my college students, and before that with my high school students, and they were always really helpful, especially Econ Lowdown. We're going to move on now to the Honorable Rebecca Connolly, who's the U.S. Chief Bankruptcy Judge for the Western District of Virginia, and after that, we're going to have Kevin Woodcox back on with me when we continue to present on resources about life after high school. So without further ado, Monica, if you could pull up Rebecca Connolly. Oh, there she is. Then you can share your screen and proceed whenever you're ready. Thank you.
I believe I'm waiting for Tammy Hedinger. I believe we start at 3:40.
Oh, right. Okay, so we're 5 minutes ahead of schedule. Okay, gotcha. Let me see if, oh, there's Tammy right there.
I suppose if there are attendees in our whatever many minutes we have, 6 minutes before, they could just shoot me some questions, unless we go ahead and start a little early.
You know, I would say we should probably go ahead and start a little early, if
All right.
that's okay with you.
Certainly fine with me.
Okay.
Perhaps, Tammy, we could start with the first slide.
Sorry, I got a little too excited. So there we go. Can
Sorry
everyone
that we
see it
sprung
okay?
this on you too early. I know that you were probably had a few more minutes to click around, so I apologize for that.
Tammy, I'm going to do one thing before we get started. All right. Okay, so shall I begin, or did you wish to begin, Tammy, with introducing the organization?
Sure. So I'll just take a minute to introduce CARE while Judge Connolly is getting set. CARE is a national financial literacy organization. We were founded by a bankruptcy judge over 20 years ago and continue to work within the bankruptcy community today with judges such as Judge Connolly. And we give free presentations in schools on a variety of topics regarding credit, student loans, budgeting. And today, Judge Connolly is going to talk a little bit more about bankruptcy. That's also another one of our specialized presentations. So we look forward to having this opportunity to share a little bit more about CARE and how we can help you this school year. So over to you, Judge.
Thank you so much, Tammy. And I do want to pick up on that last point. Please keep in mind that we are, as CARE volunteers, we are here as a service to teachers, to educators who are providing financial literacy education. And we're not teachers, but we deal with the one aspect of financial literacy, and that is that when insolvency occurs, as insolvency professionals, we really care very deeply for making sure that adequate, appropriate financial literacy education is provided to everyone, especially young people, but frankly, everyone. And that's why one of the things that we do is we volunteer, we offer to help in whatever way we can. What we really like doing is coming into the classroom. And I know right now that may mean not physically going in, it may just mean a Zoom meeting. But that's what we like to do, is we like to see the students, talk to the students, let the students see us, hear from us, hear us talk about what we do, how we do it, stories, experiences. But that's not all. You know, maybe we can't come into your classroom. Maybe you can't fit us into your curriculum. That's okay. We can still offer assistance and service, and we like to do that because you have to teach a topic that you may find that you have some questions about. We can be a sounding board. We can be a resource. We can offer either one-on-one sessions with teachers, telephone, Zoom, what have you, to go over some of these concepts. Or we could do a group of teachers. We can do sessions for teachers that help them pick up some of these concepts that they can share in their classroom. We can tell you our stories so you can tell your students if we can't make it into the classroom. We can also be there to answer your questions when they arise. Your students may ask you some questions that may be a little challenging. Well, use us as consultants. Email us, call us, ask us. We're happy to be available for you. So let's move on. Let's, as we go through the next slide, one of the reasons why this is important is because you have to teach standards of learning. As you go to the next slide, in particular, it's standard of learning EPF 13. And in particular, an EPF 13 covers, next slide. The title is this, demonstrate knowledge of credit and loan functions. That's what the students are supposed to be able to do by the end of the semester. The standard of learning's test is supposed to indicate, help to evaluate whether they can do that. Well, again, that's what we do. So keep that in mind. We are professionals who work in the credit industry. We represent those who extend credit. We help to draft the credit agreements. We help to interpret the credit agreements. We help to figure out what happens when the credit agreements go wrong. We deal with loans. Our volunteers work in the lending industry. All volunteers work in the industry to help people in creating the loans, in drafting the documents, or in, again, interpreting them or dealing with them when there is distress. So we can again, provide a resource to you, but also into your classroom. Next slide. So in particular, on EPF 13, your objectives include methods of financing a purchase, credit and lending laws. Well, let's say in your classroom, for your particular class in your school that one of these topics is what you tend to focus on, what you're going to need to emphasize more than the others. So let's say it's methods of financing a purchase, and you see sources of consumer credit is another one of the objectives. If that's your focus, that you really know you're going to emphasize sources of consumer credit and methods of financing a purchase, well, let us know, and we can custom our presentation to emphasize those objectives, to give you insights into those particular objectives. We can make sure that the volunteers are those who are well versed in those fields. We have a number of volunteers who dealt with the financing industry, or represent those in the finance industry, or involved in extending consumer credit. Or let's say, one of the objectives is credit and lending laws. Maybe in your classroom, you're more interested in emphasizing the laws, that you really want the students to know what are their rights and what are the rights of the creditors, the lenders. And if that's the emphasis that you think is important for you to stress for your students, let us know. And we will make sure that our programs emphasize the legal aspect, the rights that the borrower has, that the students have, and those that maybe they don't have. They may believe that they have certain rights, and we may explain to them that no, that's not really a right of yours. So volunteers who will emphasize more of the consumer protection law, rights, helping to explain what the rights are for the lenders, and we can focus more on those particular objectives. And then you get into debt management strategies and types of voluntary and involuntary bankruptcy and implications of bankruptcy. Well, these are topics that you have to cover, you're supposed to cover, your students have to be able to understand by the end of the semester. And those are very particular, specialized areas. That's not something where you may find a lot of resources available to you within the traditional personal financial management sources. That's what we do. Now you're getting into the financial distress, dealing with when debts become a burden, and what is bankruptcy, and what is voluntary and involuntary bankruptcy, and what are those implications. Those are exactly the kinds of topics that we can talk about. We like to talk about. We like to share our stories. We like to answer questions and give our insights. So let's move to the next slide. So, obviously there are different kinds of debts. And one of the things that we do when we come to the classroom is we do generally make a point of contrasting what I would call the bad loans, like payday loans, versus the good loans, like real estate mortgages. But what we spend most of our time focusing on are student loans and credit cards or personal loans. We have found that the student loans and credit cards are the most common types of debts that the students who are either in high school or right after high school are most likely to incur. So we really want to focus more, and we tend to focus more on student loans and credit card debt. Let's move on. Next slide. So this slide is one that I added because this slide describes what can happen when the debts become burdensome. It can also happen to folks even before debts become burdensome. What this does is this just gives you just a couple of different descriptions of what I call rip-offs and scams. Now, in fairness, these are, a rent-to-own obligation or a payday loan is not a scam, but it may not be a wise financial decision. And what we have found is that as individuals in particular, as they are finding themselves becoming a little bit more unstable financially and dealing with debt choices and having limited debt options available to them. And we can tell them, here are the sources of consumer credit, and here's what happens with different lending instruments. But what happens when they're not available to the person? And that can happen, if you don't have a lot of assets and you don't have a lot of excess income, you may not be eligible for a lot of these good credit options. Well, it can be kind of distressing, kind of embarrassing, even humiliating when someone is turned down from a favorable loan option. And so they can be vulnerable to unfavorable and unwise lending options. And so I find that it's important to be aware of these types of options that are the kind of options that require sort of a second, somebody should have a second opinion, and yet it almost always goes for somebody who will not ask for the second opinion. They're not going to talk to a lawyer. They're not going to talk to their teacher. They're not going to talk to an accountant. They're going to just often fall or prey to these because they sound so great. And a lot of times these are the kind of folks who will discourage the borrower from ever consulting someone else. Oh, don't go to a lawyer. You don't want to pay a lawyer. Don't talk to a consultant or an accountant, or you don't need to talk to your parents. It's anytime they tell you not to, it usually is a bad sign. So I like to just, and when I do my programs, I like to bring up some examples. And almost always these are entities that will tell the person, it's part of the incentive to do this. If it's a loan, it's not really a loan, but to enter into this obligation is so they can avoid something like a bankruptcy, and inevitably they're more likely to end up in a bankruptcy after doing one of these, we'll call them obligations. I hesitate to use the word scam or ripoff, but they're unwise, high-risk obligations. And one of the things I do when I do my presentations is I always go through and just pull out some examples, real-life examples, and I want them to be recent. I'll look at just something filed within the last month or 2 months before I go to the high school, and I can give a real-life example of, a title loan obligation or some other, finance company loan, and they'll have crazy rates of interest. I mean, I've even had over 100% interest, crazy rates of interest. They'll have crazy, horrible repayment terms, and I'll give the students the real-life example, and they're often young people that have entered into these, and let the students see what they look like. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so I mentioned that these scams, if you will, rip-offs, are often what happens and precipitates the bankruptcy. Well, one of the things that you're going to have to do as high school teachers, you're going to have to explain to the students the different types of bankruptcies, because it's one of those objectives, and understanding the types of bankruptcies and the causes of bankruptcy. Okay, so usually we just hear someone say, bankruptcy, what happened? Let's move on to the next slide. before we get into the weeds of the details, you know, what are the causes, what were the implications, what are the impact on the credit, on someone's credit, keep in mind the terminology. Everyone at some point mixes up the terms. So you just keep it in mind so that you're not teaching the students the incorrect use of the term. The debtor is the borrower. The debtor is the person who owes the debt. The debtor is the person who ultimately will file the bankruptcy. The creditor is the person who's owed the money. The creditor extended the credit. They're the lender, the finance company. An awful lot of people will mix up those terms. You know, I'll hear someone say, I want to pay my debtors back. Or, well, when you're in bankruptcy, what happens to your debtors? So those are really common questions, and that just is an indication that someone's got the terms mixed up. And I think it's understandable. I would suspect that you've probably been teaching some form of budgeting, and you may be, you know, teaching it through looking at a balance sheet and an income statement, you know, and they've got these spreadsheets, and they're looking at a balance sheet where they're looking at debits, and debits are going to be the deductions for the expenses. And so they're probably thinking of, well, the debit is a deduction and expense. It's from a debt that I owe. So therefore, debtor must be the entity who I owe the money to, when it's the opposite. Sorry, debtor is the borrower, the payor, the person who owes the debt. The person who holds the debt, who is owed the money, is the creditor who extended the credit. The creditor doesn't have to be someone who voluntarily extended credit. You know, contractual obligation like a bank, great. Credit card, that's a contract. But what about something like, I get in a car accident and I run into Tammy and I damage her car. I owe Tammy for the car repairs. So Tammy is one of my creditors. I owe her money. She didn't voluntarily extend credit to me. I accidentally drove into her car, but I'm still responsible to pay the debt to her. So that's just, keep in mind, that's just what happens is you can have voluntary creditors and involuntary creditors. Let's move on to the next slide. So in bankruptcy, voluntary and involuntary bankruptcy is pretty much like it sounds. A voluntary bankruptcy is when the borrower, the debtor, chooses to file bankruptcy. They file a petition in bankruptcy, you know, electing, asking, choosing, making the conscious decision to seek and file a bankruptcy. Involuntary bankruptcy is those creditors, all those people who are owed money, they file the petition in bankruptcy. And they're asking the court, me, to approve this. I enter what's called an order for relief. And once I do that, then a bankruptcy case is started, and it's always going to be a liquidation. Let's move on to the next slide. So this is just another slide to give you another definition again for voluntary and involuntary bankruptcy. Keep in mind, bankruptcy is in federal court, and it's a legal process. A lot of folks are afraid of it, and it's very mysterious, and it's really unfortunate because this is all public. It's guaranteed by our Constitution. It's fair, it's open to all, and there's nothing mysterious or improper about it. Let's move on to the next slide. So why is it that so many people file bankruptcy? So the question is involuntary bankruptcy common in consumer situations or more likely for business bankruptcy? First of all, involuntary bankruptcy is very uncommon. It's going to be most common if it's very rare again, but when it's filed, it's going to be most likely because an individual is attempting to hide their assets, and they're trying to make sure that their creditors are not going to get paid. So they're taking their assets and they're like trying to offshore them. Creditors get wind of it. They want to file the bankruptcy in order to stop the loss of the assets, in order to then cause the bankruptcy court to then sell the assets to pay the creditors. But we'll get back to that. So first of all, people often think that bankruptcy is a failure. Bankruptcy must have meant that somebody, they must have been going on a spending spree. They must be very irresponsible. They must be, someone who has, no way of like controlling their habits. They must have like gambling habits or other sorts of things. They must not want to work. That's not necessarily the case. Let's flip over to what we talked about before. So remember when I talked about different types of bankruptcy. So the basic formula here for bankruptcy is very simple. You either have on a balance sheet, you're out of balance, right? It's pretty simple. If you're in balance, your assets and your liabilities are in balance. They're equal. But if your liabilities, your debts, are more than your assets, legally, you are insolvent. So if you were to sell all your property, you still couldn't pay the debts. You're insolvent. The other test for insolvency and reasons for bankruptcy is simply maybe you don't have the income to pay the debts as they come due. So if you can pay your debts as they come due, but you're out of balance, well, you're probably okay. You can pay the debts as they come due. But what if you cannot pay the debts as they come due? That means you're out of balance, you're insolvent. And now let's look at the next slide here. So what I just talked about there, balance sheet and the insolvency, the test for insolvency is either balance sheet test or cash flow, unable to pay your debts as they come due. That's the cause, but the reasons are many, but honestly, it's rarely just plain old irresponsibility. It's rarely spending spree. It's rarely gambling habits. I mean, all those things happen, but most cases we see are through circumstances unanticipated, beyond the control of the debtor or the borrower. So let's look at the last 6 months, folks. Job loss. I can't tell you how many people were doing just fine until March 18th or thereabouts, when they worked for a non-essential business, and they may have just been laid off, or they may have literally lost their job. So if you have your income and you can pay your debts as they come due, but then you've lost your job, you don't have income, hello, now you've just got a cause of bankruptcy. You may have lost your job for no reason, for no fault of your own. It happens. Natural disaster. Every time a natural disaster occurs, there's always bankruptcies afterwards. There just are. It just is. So, it's the flood and the fire. They're going to, in many cases, destroy the small business or the employer's operation. And so even if the property damage is covered by insurance, or even if there's disaster relief aid from the federal government to cover the property damage, you can't replace the job. You can't replace the business. And so it's so often that there's business losses and job losses, and it's also very common that there are property damage or other business loss damage that's not covered by insurance. Most insurance carriers are not going to provide for acts of God. So you have uninsured expenses. Now remember that balance sheet. Now you've got lots of debt, and your value of your property went way down, maybe non-existent, and you don't even have the income. Well, another common reason is divorce. You've got usually we'll say two incomes with one household expense. Great, you can pay your debts as they come due. Now you take that same income, but you've got to spread it between two households. So your expenses doubled, but the income didn't. So now you've got that test for insolvency. Uninsured medical expenses, like uninsured property damage, judgment, that was if lawsuits are filed, this is more often businesses, but happens to individuals too. A lawsuit can occur. Now you have this debt that you didn't anticipate. Now your liabilities are greater than your assets. You might be out of balance. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so one of the things that I like to talk to the students about is keeping in mind what causes that imbalance helps you when you're thinking about making those credit choices. Because if you are incurring more debt, but you're not correspondingly adding to your assets, you're creating an imbalance. And that's what we see so frequently. It's the, the payday loan or the title loan or the finance company that extends the loan. And we see it with credit unions, and we see it with all kinds of entities out there offering to extend personal credit, but not providing for, well, the person who's getting the credit is not either acquiring assets to support the debt that they just extended, and as a result, what they're doing is they're putting themselves in more debt for the same amount of assets that they have. And and that's the other, we talk about the importance of wanting to understand what these obligations are, and that as long as you can pay them as they come due, it may not be creating the financial distress and creating the financial imbalance that leads to a bankruptcy, but understanding that that potentially could occur, because one of those reasons, didn't know about the pandemic, we didn't anticipate it, some things like that can happen, and just being able to understand that, knowing what your rights are when that happens, can be very important. But then, so circling back to this type of debt, the credit card debt and student loans are an example of incurring more debt where you're not going to get a corresponding asset, to equal that. But that said, I'm teaching the students the importance of maybe responsibly using credit cards. Maybe there's a good reason to have a credit card, or maybe student loan also might be an important loan to incur so that they can obtain the education that will help them in their future. But then understanding exactly what the payment terms are, understanding the rights of the credit card company and the rights of the individual. So let's go over to the next slide then. That's fine, we can go back to this. So when we get to bankruptcy, jumped ahead, that's okay. You will have to explain to the students different types of bankruptcy. And the two most common types for individuals are Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. Fun fact, most people think about bankruptcy, they just think of one kind of bankruptcy. Everybody thinks you file bankruptcy, you're going to lose all your property. Someone's going to come in, take your property, they're going to sell it. It's a form of liquidation. Oh, it's just awful. This is just the end of the world. And that's what bankruptcy is. Well, okay, liquidation is a type of bankruptcy. That's one type of bankruptcy. Do we actually have 9 different types of bankruptcies? There's Chapter 7, Chapter 9, Chapter 11, Chapter 12, Chapter 13, and Chapter 15. Okay, that's 6. But then in Chapter 11, we have just regular Chapter 11. We have Sub-Chapter 5, Chapter 11. We have Small Business Chapter 11, and we have a railroad reorganization. Most of these are very particular types of reorganizations or restructuring. But for individuals, you've got Chapter 7 and you've got Chapter 13, which is a type of reorganization or restructuring. You all know this. You can't really open the newspaper today without seeing another story of another retail entity filing a bankruptcy, or another oil and gas entity filing a bankruptcy, or in the entertainment world. We're all waiting, it looks like MGM, they're on the edge. And they're not filing the liquidation. They're filing a form of restructuring or reorganization. When Hertz Rental Car filed a Chapter 11 reorganization earlier this spring, do you know their stock prices went up? That's an interesting one. So for individuals, yes, you have the liquidation, but then you also have Chapter 13 as a type of a payment plan. Let's move on to the next slide. Let's move on. So in a liquidation, it is like it sounds. There is going to be a sale of assets. You've got a bankruptcy trustee whose job it is to sell property. Not all property is sold. We're not going to take the clothes off your back. We're not going to take necessary tools of the trade. So there are Not all property is sold. Next slide. Next slide. So this is another slide to describe Chapter 7. Again, for individuals that don't have the debts, doesn't have the income to pay back their debts, and that they don't have property that they're worried about losing. Most property can be deemed exempt. Next slide. So by contrast, Chapter 13 is also for individuals, but the individuals do not have to liquidate. Instead, they can keep their property. It's designed just for that. And they can propose a payment plan over 3 to 5 years. Next slide. So in the payment plan, what the individual will do is they will make payments to a trustee, and the trustee will then pay their creditors. And the nice thing about this is a payment plan. It allows for the individual to restructure the debts. They can change interest rates. They can change payment terms. They can spread the payments out. They can distinguish between different types of debts. Some debts get paid in full and some may not have to be paid in full. And then if this debtor's situation changes, life happens, things may change over a 3 to 5 year period, you can change within Chapter 13. You can modify your payment plan. So those are some of the values of these restructuring options under Chapter 13. Next slide. So, will bankruptcy hurt my credit? In a word, yes. Period. No question. Next slide. Of course, it's going to affect your financial future. Yes. It will affect your credit score. Yes. It does allow creditors to charge higher interest rates in the future. Yes, some lenders may not extend credit to someone who has filed a bankruptcy. You know, just because you have the right to file bankruptcy, which you do, the creditor has the right to decline to extend credit to you if you have bankruptcy, if you filed a bankruptcy. But that said, there are a number of creditors who will willingly extend credit to someone who has filed bankruptcy, either because they are a better credit risk, because now they have been, they've had some of their debts eliminated, so they have less debt, so they might be a better credit risk. And secondly, because there are lenders who have their share of the market is going to be for those customers who may be disqualified by other lenders. So in other words, some lenders are specifically trying to extend credit in a field where they have not having to compete with the big banks. So yes, you can get credit afterwards, probably at a higher interest rate, probably a little bit less available options for you. Next slide. So keep in mind, bankruptcy is protected in our Constitution. It's federal law. The Constitution says that Congress has the authority to draft uniform laws regarding bankruptcy. No state can take that away from you, so no one can take away those rights. What bankruptcy does is it does provide for relief to the borrower. When they're in this financial distress and they're out of balance and they can't pay their debts as they come due, well, obviously creditors are going to be demanding payment, right? They're trying to collect. And what bankruptcy does is it stops the collection. And then eventually, let's do the next slide. Eventually what happens is you get legal forgiveness. So what I do is I issue an order that says that the debtor, the borrower, is forgiven from having to, forgiven from having to pay that back. The liability is forgiven. And, like any other form of forgiveness, it really doesn't matter how you got there. You may have been very unwise, foolish, irresponsible, or it may have been extremely sympathetic circumstances, the natural disaster. In either case, you came in and you went through the bankruptcy process, and I give you the fresh start discharge. But what we hope to do in our presentations in your classrooms is helping students to avoid insolvency traps. if you do file a bankruptcy, that's what it's there for, right? That's the safety net. It's there for anyone who needs it, but we're really that that it's not used unnecessarily. So keep in mind, as volunteers, care volunteers, we're lawyers, we're judges, we're trustees. We can give you firsthand examples. We can help to dispel myths. We can do that for the teachers. We can do that for the students. We can put these stories into a context, and we hope that that's going to be helpful to you. We love doing this. I think there was a couple of questions, right? Maybe
One
not.
of the questions is involuntary bankruptcy common in consumer situations, or is it more likely for business bankruptcies? Which is more common? I would suppose as a proportion of businesses and households.
It's more common with individual businesses, but it's more common with individuals who have made some threats to unstable internet connection here. If they've been threatening that they've been trying to dissipate their assets, that tends to be when we see the involuntary filed.
Thank you. Okay, well, attendees, if you can virtually clap for Judge Rebecca Conley and for Tammy Hedinger. Thank you so much for bringing these resources to us and for letting us know about the CARE program. One of many that we can use, that we can connect with students in our classes and do a lot of good for Virginia. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, and I meant to say, I'm in Charlottesville, and we can go anywhere in Virginia.
Thanks. I put my email address in the chat, so if anyone needs to reach the judge, feel free to reach out to me and I can get you connected. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you. So the next presenter is none other than me, Stephen Day, Director of the VCU Center for Economic Education, and I'm teaming up with Kevin Woodcox, who you've already seen, the Senior Outreach Specialist at the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond. And what we're going to be doing today is a program, well, two programs really, Life After High School, Navigating Career Education and Debt from the Virginia Council on Economic Education, and then Invest in What's Next, which has the subtitle of Life After High School, somewhat confusingly, from the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond. So I'll just get right started on this. After we do this, we'll be at the terminal phase of the day where we'll have a couple short 10-minute presentations before we do the final drawing and the ending and the evaluation. All right, so I will pull up my PowerPoint and we will begin. Oh boy, what have I done? Okay, sorry about that, everybody. I just am needing to switch up my displays. Okay, I'll do it like this. Okay, apologies for that. Okay, so we start off with the problem, the issue that students in high school are having today. Students have a lot of life-changing decisions that they have to make in their junior and senior year of high school. But one of them is how to pursue education after high school. And you see I have the word college in there, but really what I mean is education after high school. All sorts of different options, and there are many. We talk about college partly because college is sort of the goal for many students, whether it should be or not, but also because of these new issues that we have surrounding college. The first of them that you see on that slide is that the costs of college have risen. You saw this with Janelle's presentation earlier. That line there at the top is tuition and fees since 1978 having gone up 1,225% compared with the general inflation rate. The prices for the rest of the economy on average have gone up, as I look in here quite closely, 279%. So tuition and fees has outpassed even the growth of medical care in the increased cost. But the thing that's also kind of perplexing about this is that the cost of college isn't the only thing that has risen. The benefit of college, or education after high school in general, has also risen over time. And so in the last 30 years, there's a college wage premium, more extra money that you get as a result of having a degree, which has increased and increased relative to other levels of education. So a high school diploma, you see there at the bottom of this little chart right there, is likely to earn $678 a week compared to someone with an associate's degree, which is at $798, quite a difference. And you notice that the unemployment rate is a lot higher too at lower levels of education as well. So our young people are really faced with this quandary. I've got to pay for more education, but in order to benefit from more education, it puts them in a kind of precarious situation where it's easy to make the wrong choice. It's important to note here that returns here are individual. Just because you get a degree doesn't mean you're going to get more money, even though people do on average. We also see that completion of the degree is important as well. It's easy to get started with a degree program, but not finish it. And so you can be left with the debt, but not the degree. And also the choice of how to pursue it is important. There's a lot of different paths. And one thing that we're hoping to do with these resources that I'm about to show you is help students pick their right path. We want students to avoid non-completion of a degree with the debt. You notice that it says here 62% of those who start an associate's degree program leave with debt. I'm sorry, 62% don't have a degree within 6 years of completing high school. And you also have a high percentage with loans and a high amount of loans as well. So you see that there's kind of no silver bullet here. Whether you're pursuing a bachelor's degree, an associate's degree, or a certificate, we still have a lot of non-completion. We still have a lot of debt. So we're going to help students fine-tune their decisions. And we think that the best way to do that is in school, through their teachers, teachers who are part of the Jumpstart Coalition, because you're the ones who are tuned into these issues. College, 4-year or even 2-year, is not right for everybody. There's multiple pathways. There's apprenticeships. We're going to show you a resource for that. There's the military, and there's credentialing programs. But we really want to point out that even inside these different options, human capital or education is still really important. You can't get around the need in the modern economy to have a high degree of productivity, education, or capital and still hope to get paid a lot. There's an inexorable connection between what you can do and what you can get paid, no matter what your path is. So this Life After High School resource has 45 lessons, 14 interactive video and calculators, and 11 articles and websites, and I'm going to go to it now. Here's what you can do to find it. You go to the Virginia Council on Economic Education website, and if you go up here to grades 9 through 12 and click on, click on, here it is, Life After High School resources. You have both a booklet, that is taking a second to load, but I like to go here to click the most recently updated PDF. And here's what we get. The number of topics that are designed for middle and high school teachers to guide their students through the tough choices of life after high school through the curriculum. So in topic 1, we have education, economic decision making, setting goals and making choices. Topic 2 is investing in yourself, choosing a path post-graduation, choosing a college or major that is right for you, and how to pay for it, managing money and controlling debt. So let's take a look at some of these resources that we have here. The beginning here, I would hand this out to your students as a reading. That's kind of like the introduction that I just told you a minute ago. But here's how it's organized for teachers. Each topic has some essential questions that you can begin the unit by posing these to your students. You can ask your students, what are some goals that you have? Some goals for the short term, like I want to go home and eat ice cream, or goals for the long term, like I want to graduate from a 2-year program, or I want to finish an apprenticeship as an electrician or something like that. What am I willing to give up in order to meet my goals? A lot of students don't always know that there are a cost to their choices. But as we tell them, an opportunity cost is an opportunity lost. And every choice that you have comes with some sort of cost. You give up the next best thing. We also have what the students will learn right there. And then a list of resources. These ones are for grades 6 through 8, along with what it is. So some of them are going to be from a lesson plan book, like Choices and Changes. And here it says what it's like. Or the Financial Fitness for Life curriculum. Or some of them are, so all of the things that are on here are free, but about half of them I think are accessible directly through this document. So for instance, Financial Fitness for Life and Choices and Changes, these are lesson plan books that you can get free through a teacher professional development session that you do with me. So here's the Financial Fitness for Life book. Actually, we have a training for this going in January. It's going to be virtual, and you get a free $40 lesson plan book if you do it. So that's just one of the many things. Choices and Changes is available on the Virtual Economics flash drive, which many of you have. If you don't, you can join one of our trainings or institutes and get it for free. This link is just free and available online. And if you go here to the next page, you'll find that some of the lessons are from Financial Fitness for Life. This. But others are just right there on Econ Ed link. College, where am I going to go? Or this apprenticeship finder from apprenticeship.gov. We also have included the certificate programs and other programs for various Virginia community colleges. When I included this in here, I just picked a number of ones that were sort of geographically spread out so that everyone in Virginia was relatively close to one. So I want to show you a couple of these things. I think that apprenticeship.org .gov is particularly brilliant if you don't go there already. A note here, academics are not for every kid. I think if you're a career and technical education teacher, you already know that, that we oftentimes need to build up not student knowledge in the 4-year college programs, the additional classes in history and whatnot. But sometimes students need practical skills to do a job. And so if you go here to apprenticeship.gov, you can actually enter in a zip code, I'm going to erase construction, and I'm just going to do 23222. Actually, let's narrow it down a little. And I'm going to search. And look at this. It gives me a list of the very closest apprenticeship programs to me and just pulls them all right up. So let's say that I want to 2 miles away from me at Sunbelt Rentals in Richmond, I want to be a service technician. And it'll say here, it tells pumps, scaffolding, outfitting a job site. This is what this apprenticeship is about. It gives you all the information, all the tools, everything that you need to know in order to sign up for it. So I really would hope and think that no student should leave high school really if they don't know about these other options besides the college system. There are these apprenticeships out there that students can get started with right away, start earning some money, start earning a great hands-on living. Also here, if you check out, for instance, the certificate programs at J. Sarge Reynolds, which is right here in Richmond, where I am, you have an accounting certificate, an automotive tech certificate, dental assistant, diesel mechanics, early childhood development, practical nursing, et cetera, and you can go also check out your associate's degrees, your transfer degrees, and your career studies certificates, et cetera. Great ways that students can start ramping up their life after high school without necessarily taking on a whole lot of debt and while still figuring out what they want to do while building some practical job skills. Just need to make sure that I am, oh, I'm about out of my time, aren't I? I need to pass this on over to Kevin. Well, let me just show you very briefly, again, where you can find this and the other resources. You go to vcee.org, hover over grades 9 through 12, and you'll find Life After High School here. If you're an economics and personal finance teacher, you should really check out our scope and sequence at the Economics and Personal Finance Scope and Sequence site right here. Also, tons of free teaching resources that you can use from around the web. And you can go here to our free teacher workshops and find out what upcoming professional development opportunities are available. So for instance, if you check financial literacy and we check search workshops, you can get, there's an online personal finance available through George Mason. There's history, there's applied economics, and the one that I really want you all to come to, if I click on over to the next page, is the one coming up here in January, which is Financial Fitness for Life, the new edition. I've been waving it around. It's going to be a couple different sessions, 6 hours of training, some of it asynchronous, some of it synchronous. You'll get a $40 book, and I really believe in the lessons in that lesson plan book. They are really awesome, and there's online ed tech resources as well. Okay, well, I've used up my time. I will then pass it on over to Kevin. If Monica, you take away my screen share and give it to Kevin.
All right, thanks, Stephen, and thanks everyone for being here today. I will go as quickly as possible through these slides, but like David, I also do have to give you that lovely Fed overview statement that these are my statements, my opinions, and they represent my positions and thoughts, and not the official position of the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond or the Federal Reserve System. So that lovely housekeeping done, let's get started. So what is Invest in What's Next? Invest in What's Next is an online course that was developed by the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond and the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco in partnership. It had several key goals, and our approaches basically wanted to do several things. We wanted to make sure we built a course that helps students build economics, personal finance knowledge, and coax that around the first major financial decision, what they're going to do after high school. It's something that's vital to their future, and really one decision you can only make once, because once you're out of high school, you've made that choice, you're moving forward. But we want to do it in a way that offers students a range of options. As Stephen mentioned, that there are lots of different paths students can take, and there's a lot, the research tells us a lot of wonderful things, but each individual is different. Within the course, we have 3 40 to 60-minute lessons. We have multiple formative as well as some optional homework assignments. The course has a preparation assessment to see how prepared students are, and it culminates with a plan as well as comparative documents that students can review this plan that they've developed. So the course is all about helping them come away with what they're going to do next. So we'll just quickly look at the 3 lessons. So in lesson 1, students are going to think about their options. And all the lessons are broken up into this kind of roadmap where it kind of walks them through the process by giving them guiding questions that helps them think about each of these steps along the way. So first one is, what interests me? And we want students to think about their future based on their interests. We know that students will be more successful if the career path, the educational path they choose after finishing high school is heavily tied to their personal interests. So we want that to be the focal point of how they move forward in their thinking. We then want students to think about, what lifestyle they want. Do they want that McMansion, or do they want to live at home forever? I'm sure their parents really don't want them to live at home forever, but I'm sure there's a few students out there who think it's pretty nice to have parents pay for everything. But again, we want them to build that lifestyle that's appropriate for them. We then also provide a series of reality checks throughout the course. And the first one is the fact that you're going to need more income than you think to live the lifestyle with which you've determined you want. We then move on to, how am I going to obtain that lifestyle? And we go back to that first question of what their interests are, and we align them by having students, there we go, look at what they stand to gain. So we take the educational area, what their interest, and we then align that with the amount of income that they've determined that they would need for the lifestyle they've picked. And that kind of gives them a set of jobs that are available for them to choose. And the jobs come from certificates, associates, and bachelors, because as Steve had mentioned, options are available to everyone. And Invest in What's Next is not a one-size-fits-all. We don't just say bachelor's degree, 4-year college is where everyone needs to go. We know that certificate programs are valuable and students can be very successful with those, as well as an associate's degree and bachelor's degree. So we want all options to be made available. And at the end of lesson 1, they kind of bring that information together in a research form and start really looking at their option. We'll talk about that more in a minute though. In lesson 2, we really want students to budget for their future. We know budgeting is vitally important. Thinking back to what Her Honor the Judge was mentioning, budgeting and just making sure you have a worst case scenario, you have a surplus, which means you have more money available for savings. We don't want students to come along with a shortfall because we know that long-term implications there. So again, in lesson 2, we provide those guiding questions. How do I plan for my future? What are my funding options? How will student loans affect my future? We really want students to start building a budget. And one of the first things we want them to do, however, is when they think about that budget is take that lifestyle that they've developed in their first lesson and then kind of put it in that form. So instead of just having, I want this kind of life, I want this kind of life, I want to then turn that into numbers. And those numbers are based on the values we pulled from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, as well as other data, economic data, based on the median cost of living. So students have a really good idea of what those costs are going to look like. We then move them forward to look at the costs for the different types of educational programs they've chosen. And this is where the activity called the net price activity comes into effect. And this is a really valuable one because, as Stephen mentioned, the cost and tuition of college has gone up well past the rate of inflation, well past what anyone would honestly consider probably reasonable. However, when you calculate a net price, which means you're bringing in the grants and scholarships students could earn, the individual price for students hasn't changed all that much over time. So it's very, very important for students to take advantage of grants and scholarships. However, coming from the classroom, I also know that many of my students never filled out a scholarship application, and that was a poor choice on their behalf. We then take that information from their net price and we place it in and we determine, will they need to borrow money in the form of student loans? We know student finance is important. We want students to have an understanding of how that process will work and what student loans will do and affect them. As we move into lesson 3, they've completed the majority of the economics or personal finance content. They've learned everything they need to learn, and now we kind of want to bring it all together and then test it and make sure they're prepared to execute on this plan. So again, we've got that roadmap, and then we begin with thinking about how to evaluate their plan. We want to find out if they're going to have that break-even point is going to be in their benefit, because we know there's going to be foregone earnings by not, immediately going to work after high school by going to college. There's going to be difficult potentially, in time and resources expense, but will that earnings premium, the difference between the amount of money they could earn at just a high school diploma and say their certificate program, when will that pay off? When will they earn more? We want to make sure students are aware of that so that they're better prepared. We then want to challenge students based on a set of scenarios that are real life. So one of them, which Stephen also kind of mentioned, is that more often than not, unfortunately, students are entering the workforce with the title of some college, no degree, meaning, a generation ago, we would say they were a dropout. They failed to complete. Well, we also know that that is the largest growing segment of the college educated population, but you're not going to earn much, if any, extra beyond a high school diploma for not finishing. So we want to make sure students understand the downsides of if they choose not to finish for whatever the reason. We want students to make sure that they understand the economics for their area. So while this is median data in your community, you might earn more for this job, or you might earn significantly less based on the supply and demand. We then want to test students' ability and level of preparedness. And we do this in a way to ensure that students think about how ready they are to execute on their plan. So some key features for educators are, we do have a For Educators page at investinwhatsnext.org. We click on the For Educator link, and here you can find a quick reference guide, a classroom teacher guide, a mentor or counselor guide. So if your guidance counselors are interested in this topic, again, they can make it available, as well as videos that are embedded within the course are made available here for teachers to use outside of the course. Each student has their own dashboard, and the dashboard helps students track their own progress, store links, see the results from their knowledge checks or formative assessments, and access other portions of the course, such as the plan builder, the preparation assessment, as they finish the course. This also is a way for you as teachers to track students' progress by having students share with you their dashboard. I mentioned we would talk about their research briefly earlier, and here it is. So when students really start building their research, they go and they're going to bring information from 2 different schools that match their goals. So in this case, we have a student who wants to be in healthcare, particularly a radiation therapist, to get an associate's degree. They see that there's 2 community colleges here in Virginia where they can get that information. Now that's a lot of information on one screen, and students might become overwhelmed. Well, we've made that easy because we have students go off-site with a link to College Navigator. College Navigator pulls information from every college or university, no matter if it's public, private, for-profit, no matter what the level is, across the country that receives any type of federal funding. And this is put together by the Department of Education. And on this site, you can get the general information, you get the tuition and fees, you can learn about financial aid, you can actually get a glance at the net price, you can find out what's required potentially to apply for and get admittance to these schools. So it's really a one-stop shop. Students don't have to take time to dig through their college choices website, which can be very time consuming. Additionally, another site we can send students to is the Occupational Outlook Handbook, which is from the Department of Labor's, specifically the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Here, students can see what the median pay is for a job, what the job outlook is. Is this job growing, or by the time they finish, is this job going to disappear? We want students to be able to see similar jobs as well, because maybe when they actually really start reading into this, they realize this is not quite what they want to do, but they still kind of want to do something in that area, and it gives them that opportunity. So again, these are high quality sources where students can get great information. We also, because this is an educational resource, do have formative assessments built in. So there are 9 assessment questions per lesson. And as instructors, you'll have the opportunity to have students print, save, email, or post scores to a learning management system so that you can receive that information, so you can give them grades, track their progress as they move through. So they could hit that lovely print button. They can see it as a PDF, which they can either save as a PDF to upload to a learning management system or email, or if you actually are back in the classroom and you want them to print that out, they could print that out. So multiple ways that you could then receive that information and work with students. Preparation assessment, as I kind of mentioned earlier, is all about making sure they're ready, but we do this over several ways. We look at their academic readiness, but also soft skills, because we know employers are vastly more interested in students' abilities and their skill sets than necessarily all of their academics. Many employers will tell you, I can give them the on-the-job training for the specifics for the role, but I want to make sure that they have what it takes to be successful. And we also want to make sure they know their options, and we want to provide them information that helps them along the way. We then will give them an assessment overview, which is also based on their grade level. So if you're a 9th grader, you're going to receive a set of feedback that's totally different than a senior would, because again, you're 2 different grade levels. If you're a freshman, you have more time to make changes and improve your preparedness than if you say were a senior. Once this is all said and done, these students will see their final plan, and we unlock the plan builder, which means they can go in and build additional plans, change plans, and move throughout the course. Because they've completed the course, they have no more options. In this case, I've modified some things, and I've chosen that I'm going to be a high school teacher. This job doesn't actually exist in the system as it is. I've changed that job to this. I've also changed my area of study to be economics and personal finance. So I was able to, within the plan builder, tweak some things and adjust some things to better fit my personal circumstances. I can also then produce a single plan document that provides all the information. It gives me the budget, the net price, the short-term as well as the long-term economic benefit of the job, what my school costs are going to look like. So I could share this with a parent, guardian, all the important links that are appropriate that have been saved and pulled and go into here. So this can be shared with parents, your teacher, you yourself could have your students email this to you as a way of saying, hey, I've completed the course, here's my plan, so I know what they're going to do. They also have the opportunity to compare plans, which means they would have select 2 plans in the plan builder, and they can then get apples to apples comparison as well as apples to orange. So in this case, we have someone who wants to either be a high school teacher or a computer engineer. So 2 totally different career paths, but guess what? They still can look through and see what the net price is going to look like. They can see what their monthly income would be, as well as the cost of their student loans. So this allows students to have some dynamic feedback based on their choices. And again, this is a resource that can be printed, saved, or shared as well. And at this time, I think Stephen and I are happy to take your questions.
We have one registrant already from this group for Financial Fitness for Life. All right, Kimberly, good job. If there's no more questions, then I think it's my job to cut ourselves off, Kevin.
All right, thank you, Dave.
But it was good working with you again.
Absolutely.
Okay, as we come down here to the home stretch, let me remind you, it's not in the chat yet, but please do be sure to fill out the evaluation form when we're all done. It's very, very short. Okay, so we have two short little things to wrap up. We have an update from the Credit Union League sponsor. So Mary, if you'll jump on. We have Mary is our Director of Professional Development and Cooperative Initiatives at the Virginia Credit Union League. So we thank you for your support and we welcome you to jump on and share your screen.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can't see you though.
Yeah, I'm having issues sharing for some reason.
Okay, so you'd like me to pull up yours on the?
Yeah, if you don't mind, that would be awesome.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
You can go ahead and start talking while I pull it up, okay?
Okay, perfect. Again, I am Mary Amex with the Virginia Credit Union League. And for those that are unfamiliar with us, we are the statewide association representing credit unions headquartered in Virginia. Credit unions exist not for profit, but for the people we serve. As financial cooperatives, credit unions are guided by the 7 cooperative principles. 3 of those principles directly relate to credit union efforts in financial literacy and go together with Jumpstart's mission: concern for the community, education and training, and cooperation among cooperatives. There we go. I see the slide now. Thank you, Stephen. The remaining principles support the operation of credit union as a business, but it's these 3 principles here that get financial education at the forefront of every credit union's business ideology. Each year, our league board appoints members to our financial education committee, a working volunteer group comprised of over a dozen credit union professionals who have passion for and are committed to offering financial education to the communities they serve. Together, they design and deliver programs to help all credit unions offer financial education to their members, and also programs to make it easier for you as teachers to teach financial education in your classrooms. Some of these programs include our Smart Credit Check. It's our ongoing campaign that encourages consumers to pull their credit reports each quarter for free, and also offers assistance in helping consumers increase their credit scores. For you teachers, we encourage you to check out our SCORE edutainment board game if you haven't already. It's similar to Monopoly and introduces players to real-world scenarios and life events that impact the credit score, and also offers teachable moments about the factors and behaviors that ultimately influence credit scores. Our Real Money experiences are our one-day training opportunity for teachers, scheduled regionally throughout the state each year to help teachers cope with EPF SOLs. 2020 obviously threw everyone a curveball with our in-person events. However, we are working hard to hopefully offer virtual experiences soon. Credit unions can also help you teach financial education in your classroom. Virginia credit unions continue to lead the way in hands-on assistance in the classroom. If you are not currently connected to a credit union, please reach out to me so that we can help you make that connection. You can also go to our website, www.vacul.org/financial education. You'll see the link there on the slide to learn more about additional resources that we have for you. If you scroll one page down, Stephen, there's my contact information. Again, if you're not currently connected with a credit union, please reach out to me and I'll be happy to make that connection for you. On behalf of the league, we're happy to partner as a sponsor of Jumpstart Summit, and thank you for your time today. Apologies for my technical issues.
Thank you so much, Mary. Okay, so we are now just getting to the end of the summit. I am going to go ahead and we'll bring our leader, the illustrious Cherry Dale, back up, and she will tell us about the transition grants, and then Tia Grizzle will do more drawings for the shredders. And I'm going to go ahead and put the link for today's evaluation in the chat. If you would all fill that out at your leisure. So, Cherry, what is a transition grant, and how can a teacher get one?
Good afternoon. Thanks, Stephen. I am going to share my screen so you all can see the PDF for the Virginia Jumpstart Instructional Transition Grant. After today, we will be emailing this application out to participants. And we decided to do something for teachers as we raised funds for the summit itself, and we had excess funds. So what better way than to help you in the classroom transition during this time of uncertainty? We plan on awarding 10 $500 instructional teaching grants to teachers in the state of Virginia. Applications will be open starting today through November 9th. So this is the application that will be emailed to you. If you would like to apply for the grant, you simply fill out the application, the PDF. You would email it to me at cherry.dale@va.org. And we want to know how you will use the $500 for your classroom in teaching during this time of transition. One of the criteria in order to receive the grant was to participate in today's summit. So that is a check box that we will have you check off. And then you will also need to describe how you're going to use the grant and specifically provide us above utilized during your time. So we also would like you to sign digitally the PDF and send it in, just so that we have your permission to publish your ideas to other teachers within Virginia Jumpstart. I think it's very important to share your great ideas with each other, and I'm sure we will get some great applications and great ideas that you guys are doing to help in your classroom. So again, that will be emailed out. The deadline is November 9th. We have a committee that will be reviewing the grants. And after November 9th, I will be out to the grant winners, and we will go through what the process is then to actually get the check for the grant. So thank you all for attending today. We do want to make sure, again, to recognize our amazing financial supporters for this event. And most of the money that was raised is going toward this grant, teacher application grant. And then it also went toward the shredder giveaways as well. So we're giving away a lot of shredders today. But Virginia Credit Union, Wells Fargo, Virginia Society of CPAs, the Virginia Credit Union League, and Next Gen Personal Finance were all financial supporters for this event today. And we truly thank all of them for their support throughout the years. And as we transition to virtual as well, we appreciate them supporting us in our endeavor. So I'm going to turn it back over to Stephen and Tia, and they can then announce the final winners of the shredders.
Thanks. And actually, while we're thanking people, I also want to really thank the planning committee for doing this, for all their work in doing this as well. So Tia, Molly, Cherry, me, Monica, Judy, Thank you so much for working on this. Did I miss anybody? Don't think I did. Okay. So with that, Tia, please tell us who's the proud owner of a shredder.
All right, you guys, it is shredder time. So first, before I give out the rest of the shredders, I'm going to go through and announce the names that have already won. So the people that have already won are, we have Marsha Campbell, Edith Hamilton, Jocelyn Forrest, Megan Wolford, Pat Four, Melody Reeves, Melissa Kemp, Linda Lauderdale, Denise Person, Elizabeth Pace, Diana Frank, Jessica Johnson, Tyrone Spain, Ashley Long, Jocelyn Ayala, Stephanie Sadler, Yvette Bedford, Albana Salapia, Karen McGrath, Frawn Dandridge, and those were the winners that we had before. So we want to do something extra special for all of my faithful 55 participants being out there. We're going to do an additional 10 to the 14 we were going to call for the rest of them. So I'm going to be calling 24 new names. All right. I've already randomly went through on Google and randomized the names with your numbers. And the winners of the final 24 shredders are Pamela Collins, Ladisha Lee, Charles Thompson, Jessica Smith, Jennifer Balke, Michael Holmes, Lori Belding, Sabrina Masters, Angela Robertson, Erica Lamper, David Leon, Michael Onita or Onda, Patricia Newman Ricks, Monica McMillan. We have Moses Kinsley, Sharon Green, Patricia Stockdale. We have Sharon Paul, Carrie Byrne, Maybelle Singleton, Joan Waltz, Janice Skipwith, and Shamika Gamble. And I see I pulled Kim Edmonds. Is she able to be a winner, or do I need to pick a new name?
Yeah, she can win.
All right, so we have Kim Edmonds also.
Yeah, Kim can win.
And so please, before the end of the day, send me an email, tia.grizzle@fortleecu, and just make sure you put the title as winner in the subject line and put your address on there. I'm telling you, please, you want to make sure you want to get these shredders. Don't wait until later to send me a message a few days later. It's not going to get to you. Today's the day. Send me that email, all right? And we are so thankful for all of you and your efforts in spreading out financial education to our youth. You guys help make the world go around.
Thank you, Tia.
And that is a good place to end. So would you all please clap for yourselves, pat yourselves on the back, and we're going to give you the best PD gift of all, which is we're going to end just a few minutes early. So thanks again. Please do the evaluation. I'm going to put it here in the chat again so that you all see it. And I see all the thanks pouring through. Thanks so much, everybody. I'm going to leave this on a couple minutes so that we still have the chat available and so the eval is available. But if you don't need to stick around for that, you're free to go. Thank you, everybody.
Great job, Stephen. I'm going to go ahead and hop off.
Monica, thanks so much for everything. That was a huge help, you monitoring the chat.
No problem. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
And I see here there's some people who I have to switch their shredders to, so I'm writing this name down right quick before I hop out.
Okay, thanks so much for managing that, Tia.
You're welcome. All right, I got it down. Bye, you guys.
Stephen, what's your schedule like this week? Maybe we circle up to do a follow-up.
Yeah.
I'll email you some time, or email me sometimes that you're free.
Well, oh, actually, I'm a little bit busy this week. Yeah, I will have to email you sometimes. You know, it's funny when, well, I knew when I was doing technology and I knew I'd be hosting, I didn't imagine myself being the MC for the whole thing, but here I am.
Hey, you did a great job. That's what you get for being the Zoom person.